Good evening, folks. It is very much late getting started this evening. Have a few announcements. Tonight, we are not continuing with the current campaign for multiple reasons. One, we have Thane and Carl both missing. All of them had to close at Lowe's tonight, so it was going to be 11 o'clock before they get off. Travel and whatnot. We would never have been able to pull it off. Especially with my roommate, not liking us to stay up late like he does.
So he'll be back?
Probably. I never texted him.
Oh, okay.
Other thing is, we still got Nate and Trevor here tonight, so we're going to go ahead and do just a little one-shot. I'm just kind of pulling it out of my butt with ideas I came up with during the week. So, you have no character sheet.
Because I left it in my Uber.
This is very sad.
But I do have all the info on that spreadsheet because I uploaded
on the spreadsheet? Okay. You want to give him a sheet of paper, and I will, in the meantime, open and recall.
Behold.
Hearken and behold, paper hitherto cometh to you. Okay, I need to go to Gmail. I want to file, open, all characters, open.
Danny.
Hopefully no one deleted your stuff.
Well, I was messing with it this afternoon. So.
Okay. Alright, you're here.
Okay, so.
Alright. Your stats are as follows.
I can look it up on my phone.
Oh, you can look it up on your phone?
Yeah, that's why I was glad I had it.
Oh, then, heck, I didn't even need to pull this up. You got your stuff.
I was confused. Whatever.
Okay, so we do have Chinese coming here in a little while, and so we will have a short interruption
To eat food.
to go ahead and just, chow while we're continuing to play. We'll be smacking our jaws while we go ahead and do our thing. If I could have all of the female characters from over there, that would be great.
You going with our earlier idea?
What now?
Oh.
No. That's, no.
I'm just
No.
saying.
Dripping for inspiration.
Okay,
What
critical
was it?
role.
Okay.
Grog the Goliath Barbarian gets into a big, a ring fight, basically. Kind of like a cage fight. Just because he wanted to challenge someone strong and fight him. And there were bets flying around and everything. And the second time around, the first time he lost. Spoilers, folks. The second time around, he comes back, and he's so close that all of a sudden people are... trying to inspire him from the sidelines as much as possible without casting actual magic.
Yeah.
And in their group, there is Vexalia and Vax, her Vax Elden, both half-elf. And Vexalia, they're sitting there, everybody's getting into it so much that Vexalia, she just makes the motions to totally lift up her shirt and flash Grog. And everyone, and immediately Vax Elden, who's not real sister in real life, but since their birthdays both land on the same day, they decided to become twins in game. Mm-hmm. And he immediately sees this and he's totally in character. No! And he grabs her arms and puts her back down. And the DM just kind of just briefly joking into. He's like, I'm pretty sure that would be a negative inspiration to Grog because of the distraction.
Even worse if the enemy is gay.
Anywho,
or
yeah,
strange.
that was needless to say very funny.
Oh god.
But anyway, apparently DoorDash is a couple minutes away at the most.
Oh, nice.
So.
Where are you?
Anywho,
Anywho,
to the campaign.
to the campaign. You've got your stats, right?
Yeah.
I'm currently almost there.
All right. Sounded like that was them. Want to check the door?
My stomach has responded.
Food!
You have like 20, like, you have that 6 cents.
I could hear it.
Oh, that too.
We all recognize the strange sounds around our house that indicate someone that doesn't belong here is here.
Alright, I'm gonna go grab the forks.
There's some silverware in here.
Oh, there's silverware?
Yeah.
I prefer a metal fork.
There you go.
I'll go with the plastic.
Anybody else want a metal fork?
I'm good. I got my plastic her.
They all come in foam containers to eat out of?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Nope, they just gave us food in a bag.
Food in a greasy bag.
Alright, we'll have to open it.
Is this mine? No.
Yep,
Wait,
you got the
yes.
crab rangoon.
Oh, yeah.
I too did get crab ragout.
Oh, I think...
Mine.
No, you got lo mein, didn't you?
Yeah. I got
I was gonna say, we got this.
chow mein.
We got here at the same time. We got the same food. What the heck?
Great minds think alike.
And these are
Yep,
for,
here's mine.
crab
This is
ragout.
mine.
Or-
Because I got 2 different kinds of chicken.
And, oh yeah, your bag, it has your cookie in it.
They gave me a cookie?
Yeah,
I
and
was
then
doing
you
really?
want
Still
soy sauce, because there's a lot of soy sauce.
I love soy sauce. I will use that in my cooking and all kinds of stuff.
Okay, so...
But I could also use a couple, packets of it now. Arigatou konnichimasu.
Am I on the right email? I'm pretty sure I am.
What's the matter?
I'm looking
Look-
for the email with
The stat sheet?
yeah.
I don't know if I sent it out.
You did, because that's what I said. I edited it earlier to add in all my skills and stuff.
Oh.
It wasn't added earlier.
Just throw that on the fried rice.
Ah,
let
there
it
you
soak in
are.
for a little bit.
You
No,
found
I
it?
did not say delete it. You dumb.
Don't delete it. Don't delete it. No.
Have you heard that joke?
Deletes. Thank you, Harry Potter.
You just told the same joke
What
I was
is
about
it?
to make.
What
Um,
is?
Ginny walks up to Harry Potter and says, "Harry, I'm pregnant. Fetus deletus."
Oh no! No!
We are
Oh.
very in sync tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
You never heard of that one before?
No.
That's a
The
classic.
worst thing I've ever seen of Harry Potter parodies was when Wingardium Leviosa.
He's like, stop it, Ron. Ron Weasley.
I read those books so many times, and no matter how many times, I could never stand the character.
But Ron, what if I can't get it up? Wingardium Leviosa. Oh.
God, I love Oni. Their
That's-
animations are the best.
That's the only ones I think I've ever seen from them, but that's absolutely horrible.
I was at it. Now it's.
Their Final
Lost
Fantasy
again.
one's really good too.
I don't know hardly anything about Final Fantasy,
You don't
so.
have to. It's still fun.
Okay, well maybe I'll check it out after we're done. That being said, let's go ahead and try this
One shot.
shot from the hip one-shot campaign.
There you are.
Okay. The story takes place on a totally different continent
Oh.
from Go. On a small, or a continent, small island-type continent in the middle of the Eastern Ocean named Misty Landon. It's a very technologically advanced country, more so than Go.
Oh, my character's gonna love it there.
You find yourselves walking down the street one night.
Sorry to interrupt. Where's the Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper, in that box behind you.
Okay.
I used the old box to
Because
case the box. The case basically the box that you broke.
it exploded.
Exploded.
Oh, wait, can you grab one more since you did?
You know what I'm suddenly hearing? I'm suddenly hearing the anime girl from Konosuba. Explosion! I've still got this, so I'm good. You have no idea how many of those I've drunk in the last 2 days.
Should I bring something else next week?
No. I still like my Dr. Pepper. But
I'm just curious, am I on this list?
I literally
you're-
took
you
6 cans of Dr. Pepper off my desk and threw them in the garbage can about 2 hours ago, and I'm like, that's a lot of Dr. Pepper. Anywho, Enneagram.
Why do you never just call me Ingroom if I change my name?
Because he likes the name.
Enneagram is so awesome, though.
Okay, fine. Maybe I'll change it back.
Hey, and technically, this is 7 months before you changed your name, so.
Okay. Fine. Yeah, I'll just change it back, I guess, into actual campaign.
Okay.
In the middle of the next fight, you're just, wait. I'm an Enneagram again.
And then, you know, whatever boss or whatever you're fighting, and all the players sitting around. Got it. Ah!
He's like really
I
like,
get just about, you know, some enemy about to be decapitated. Wait, everyone! My name is Enneagram once again. And everybody's like, oh, okay. It makes sense. I'll write it down in my
The
name.
guy you're about to, like, chop. Like, the guy you're about to decapitate.
Thane sitting here with his sword, stabs it into the ground, pulls out his notebook, scratches out the old name. Whatever boss is sitting there prone on the ground.
Oh, the boss? No, we're about to stab the boss, and everyone's like, oh, Negan,
Like
nice
all of
to
us
meet
have our
you.
weapons out.
Or
You
better
stop
yet, no,
listening.
the boss is sitting here waiting for Thane to pull out his notebook, find the right page, write it down, and the boss is literally sitting there looking at his watch, laying prone on the ground.
You interrupt the boss's monologue.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like, no, I'm about to, like, attack one of the boss's minions. He's, like, the minion that, he's prone, about to stab him, and he just reaches and says, hey, nice to meet you, or whatever, just shakes my hand.
Can I have a soy sauce?
No, you cannot.
Thank you.
You can have the soy fish.
Oh, I already had soy sauce.
I was just being facetious, as my mother used to call it.
A dick.
My mother never used such language when I was a child.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure she did at some point.
Not when I was around. Didn't need to have that mental image there. Thanks a lot, man.
I just met your mom probably cussed as a kid. You don't want the...
No, my mom is not a cusser. My mom is not a cusser. Anywho.
Can they hear us eating on the microphone?
Huh?
Can they hear us eating on the microphone?
Probably not.
Nom, nom, nom.
I think we'll be fine.
Okay, never mind. He's being a dick.
Okay. Anywho. So, it is evening when the story occurs. Danny, you find yourself walking down the street, trying to find your way to your room for the evening. You have a couple small purses, mostly just fancy little things that you pickpocketed during the day. You're planning on going back to your room, count out your spoils, and see what you have. And Enneagram, you're walking down the street, looking, for a tavern to, spend the night in. You haven't had a job in a while. You've been out looking, checking various other local establishments for possible bounty jobs, but not been having much luck. It's dark, foggy, cobblestone streets around you, tall, multiple-story buildings. This is pretty advanced for steampunk still. Oil lamps line the streets. The occasional lamplighter walking around past you or working, lighting the lamps as it gets dark in the evening as you walk by. As both of you are walking, you hear a sound that you've never heard before. This is a rare, strange sound. Sounds like some sort of machine moving, and you hear a crash, a scream, and a female voice yelling out in alarm, another female voice arguing back, and more machinery sounds as the sound of the machine goes away. And you both, very curious, cannot see anything happening, but you hear this in the mist in front of you. Neither of you are aware of the other person's presence, both coming from opposite ends of the streets. What will you do?
So I hear it in front of me,
Yes.
and I hear, like, people, like, screaming, like, they're in distress or whatever.
You heard someone screaming, worried. Roll perception on it, or observance.
Can I borrow some dice?
Go ahead and use Leona's. They're nice pink dice for your character. Don't worry, Thane, if he loses his character, he's planning on making a gay bard
Total of
to
20.
partner with you.
Total of 22.
22? The voice seemed very worried, afraid. But it didn't sound that the voice that was afraid was in distress. The yell came from a man's voice.
So the yell came from a man. So the man was the one in distress.
Yes.
It's me. Sorry.
Well, I'm still gonna run regardless to check it out to see if it's okay to make sure no one's hurt. So I'm just gonna start dashing it. Ooh.
Okay.
Can I roll stealth and try and move in quickly but without being seen?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Is there a plug over here?
There's not, unfortunately.
Oh no! Don't worry.
That's
Wait,
about as far as I can make it work.
Yeah, I can work with it. Just gotta.
You gotta remember to pull my dice right here.
Okay, stealth. I got a total of 20.
20. Okay. You are relatively stealthy. It's a foggy night. You're able to keep to the fog and the shadows, but as you get closer,
I'm still running.
okay, you're running. All right. That being said, as you both approach into the scene, you're in the stealth. You're out in the open. You hear whistles, a whistle blaring off. Lanterns now. Imagine the old style lanterns that had a ring on the front to help direct light forward, kind of like an old-fashioned oil lantern or a flashlight.
Yeah.
Those shining through the night. Those coming from the distance, and as you hear the whistles and the sound of rushing feet, you come upon a body on the side of the road. It has been partially crushed, and there is blood smeared across the cobblestones. The person is bleeding from the mouth, and blood is pouring out across the street. And you find the man coughing on his own blood. You, as you're running through the shadows, you see a figure standing above the body I just described as you run up and hiding in the shadows. Anything you want to do before I continue?
I'm going to approach the man and just like talk to him. I'm not the comforting type, obviously. He looks like he's gonna die, right? I mean, he got crushed.
He does, yeah. He pretty much, yeah.
I see the same thing he sees.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty much on death's door. I was like, look, I promise. It's like, sir, I promise with your dying breath, I want to find out who did this to you. Can you please tell me who it is? Let me grant this wish for you.
Once I saw that he
Even
was
though I'm kind of forcing the wish upon it.
Mm-hmm.
once I see that he's talking to him and not stabbing him, I walk up to his other side and kneel down, and I look at him and I said, "Don't you think we should try and get a doctor for this guy?"
Who are you?
Who are you? Why does it matter?
No, before he says anything else, I'm just gonna grab him and pull him aside since he's a little shorter than me.
Mm-hmm.
This man is dying. Don't make it. He's like, a doctor is not going to save him. He is on the verge of death's door already. Let me go.
You can go ahead and whisper louder. You don't have to hide it from anyone else. But we got to keep it up for the microphone, too.
Yeah. It's like, this man is dying already. No doctor can save him.
I like this shirt. Let go.
As you wish.
No, that was me, not my character.
Oh.
I have like 5 shirts that are presentable. Just
Sorry.
no.
Oh boy, I gotta pull on YouTube chat. Give me a second. I forgot to pull up YouTube's chat. Give me a moment, folks.
It tastes like a marshmallow.
Mm-hmm. Wait, which one? Your chicken? Oh, that.
Like, it's not sweet, but it tastes kind of like a marshmallow.
But,
Okay, so both of you arguing off to the side.
I say,
this
oh,
man's dying. I need to get the word
What's the one shot called? It's in the YouTube description. I'm not gonna read it out because it kind of have spoilers. So don't watch the.
We can't know.
I'm not gonna tell you the title of it because it does have some spoilers. But Skipper Thane says, "Hey guys."
Hey, Thane.
Okay.
How dare you not show up?
So
anyway,
about this time, the rushing feet come forward. The lantern shines upon you. Both, one of you gripping the other person's shoulder. Oi! Hold there! Stop! Are you going to freeze?
I'm still dangling, so I can't do anything.
I'm just gonna drop you.
I
Okay.
land on my ass.
Okay. Halt! What is going on here?
We heard cries of screams, so I went to go to investigate and saw this whole sod.
At
here.
about this time, two other people with other lanterns come around the corners from the directions both of you came, and you are now surrounded by local authorities, the local constables. And he's like, this looks like awful shady business. Couple of murdering thieves in the middle of the night.
Okay.
You're coming with us.
Coming with
try
you.
and-
Look at this man. He's been crushed. Do we look like we carry the vice to crush anyone like this man right here?
Okay.
Roll a charisma check on that one.
Let's see. Alright, total of 22.
He's like, well, I can't quite say that you are, and I can't quite say that you aren't, but the inspector would know for sure. But we do need to question you anyway, so if you could please...
At this point, I pipe in and say, you can question us in a few minutes. We want to hear this man's last wishes.
He's still alive?
Yes, that's why we're here.
Well, come on then, what have you to say? He reaches down and grabs the guy by the shirt. What have you to say? Who did this to you?
I push him. Let go of the dying man.
And as you do that, make a dex save.
My dex is... I think my dex is actually very high. Hold on. Oh, this is going to get annoying for the night. I should write it down during a break or something.
I mean, you could write it all down on your sheet of paper.
I know, but I'm eating. Okay, my dex is... 24.
As you go to push the man, you feel a hand try to grip you from behind, and you just barely pull out of the way as the constable behind you tries to pull you back for assaulting another cop or
Okay.
another constable.
As I dodge, and I'm gonna spin around and go down to the guy again and say, "Who did this?"
As you do so, roll an observation check to hear his dying words.
Ah, blood. My observation is... So it's 13.
As you get down, you hear just a slight whisper, and he just sinks back, his life force draining from his body in that moment.
Damn it.
It was 4 or 5 syllables. Being completely serious here, that might be important. It was probably a name.
Pretty sure you just sound like he was coughing up blood.
He was whispering, you dumbass.
About this time, a horse-drawn carriage gets pulled up. Another constable riding on. Other people start coming in. Lights from houses start lighting up around the area. And about this time, 2 women come walking up to this up to the scene. It's like, what's happened? What's happened? Let me in! Let me in! There's a small crowd forming around the constables now, and 2 women come into the circle around you. And one of them, short, tomboyish, wearing a plaid overcoat in the night. The other one, plump, round, and looks kind of like a governess.
Is there like an age difference between the two?
Not too much. The governess looks a little older, but they looks like they could be best friends at the same time. He's like, Mary, the one who's larger, she comes up, Mary, do we really have to run around like this? And she's like, nonsense, Missy. This is a chance of a lifetime. Finally, we get a chance to be right there at the scene of the crime. And she runs in, and she's like, what happened? Homicide? Murder? What does it say? And she getting in, and she looks at you. She's like, well, obviously. And she reaches down, and there's this round disc that she pulls out with no handle. It's just got these strange, sides that she holds. And she gets up really close to the body and starts looking through it. And you can tell by looking through it that it somehow magnifies, makes things look bigger. It looks like her own invention of a magnifying glass.
Okay.
And one of the constables is like, Miss Artie, do you really need to? I'm sure Strahd wouldn't like this. Please don't. And he's like, nonsense. This is the moment. This is the moment, just moments after the crime. This is when the most evidence is most useful. And just then, hi! Miss Artie, what have I told you before? Stop involving yourselves in our crime scenes. And she turns around, Inspector, please. He's like, none of that now. Be gone.
I'm gonna.
Well, I guess, sorry. You can go first.
Okay.
Sorry.
When I see this, is Miss Artie? Is she an adult?
She looks to be about late teens.
Okay, so adult in this kind of era.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try and tell him now, in this situation, I think it would be best if we got all the help we could get. I'm gonna try and convince him.
As you say that, there's a kind of a crowd mulling around, and at that moment, the shouting man, he pushes his way through the crowd. Constables, there's about 7 or 8, multiple people holding back different people, trying to send them home, and a well-dressed, suited with a number of stripes on his sleeve, constable. Looks like he's much higher ranking.
He's the one that was yelling at the girl?
Yes.
That's who I'm talking
He
to.
comes to, yeah, and you start talking to him. He's like, who is this buffoon standing in front of me?
While that's going on,
I'm Sam / Danny. Don't know
sitting
yet.
in the middle of it all. The two girls that were talking. So, are they both like? You said only one of them was like sporting the magnifying glass looking invention. So she's obviously some sort of inventor or whatever of some sort. Because she said earlier it was a woman who was the guy and the woman screaming or yelling or whatever, but the guy was the one in pain or something like that. Do I recognize the two voices to be similar to that one voice from earlier or no?
Roll an observation check.
Total of 19.
It does not seem to be the same voice. The other voice was much shriller than this one is, and
Let's like keep in the other direction.
from your experience with people, especially with your background in bounty hunting, you've learned to discern voices at least with enough skill that you can tell this is not the same person speaking.
Now, this is kind of not metagaming, but a question about the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm building a skill right now, like I did when I checked his injuries last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to basically make scam.
To observe wounds and whatnot.
Yeah. Can I progress skills in this solo campaign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
They will basically be pre attempts to what you had tried at your current time. That being said, as we move past that, Inspector Strahd comes up and he's like, "Listen, you have no idea what I have to put up with this lass. Please, stand down and don't encourage her. Miss Artie, please, stand down." And it becomes, past the crowd, and you can just this constant arguing and bickering back and forth.
I want to go to approach Artie and then this constable looking dude. Look, I think it's best that we could get as much help as we could get here in this situation. Also, with using her invention, she can clearly see more visible than to the naked eye what has occurred, what evidence will be there.
He looks instrument. What? Have you made another toy, Miss Hart? Oh, dear. Lord, have mercy on us. And
I get really excited and ask, "You're an inventor?"
she's like, oh, yes, thank you. And then she kind of moving in between Missy and trying to position her Missy, kind of moving her. At the same time, she bends down and continues to try to examine the body. He's like, and by the way, who are you? And one of the constables leans in and whispers something. He's like, oh, yes, constables, ring them up. And you feel hands from behind attempting to cuff you in handcuffs. And are you going to resist?
I'm going to resist.
I'm not going to resist, but I do want to say something.
Okay.
If this is about pushing the guy, he was manhandling a dying man.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to say is like, I didn't murder them. I came across it to investigate to see what happened to this poor sod. And as like one of them's trying to reach me, I'm trying to like grab his hand,
Okay. Roll a strength check on that one.
maybe break one of his fingers in the process by accident.
Accident.
Total of 20.
20? As you reach over, you feel the hand and you just snap up, and you feel as you do so, just a couple of fingers just crunch under your grip. And he shouts out in pain. At that moment, you are just tackled by about 3 or 4 others and smashed to the ground underneath of them. And
Am I the same?
you are not, because you're not resisting, you're just talking back.
And
You
I
are...
turn and say, "You're making it worse. Just stop resisting."
It's like, at that moment, Miss Artie pipes up, Mr. Strahd, it's obvious from my inspection here that these men are not responsible.
You tell her.
And as she does, this
Listen
man
to the woman.
was
Listen,
killed
nice
by a
pretty lady."
automobile. And everyone stops and he's like, what do you mean? Look at these indentations here. He's obviously been run over. My father and I have been working alongside of these machines for quite some time, as my father is one of the main manufacturers of them. These are definite tread marks from a tire. This man has been run over by a automobile.
And it's like, and I told your stupid constable earlier that I was not responsible, nor do I carry any machinery like that upon me.
I'm just kind of encouraging everybody on my side.
Okay. As you say that, you are now just basically talking against the cobblestones.
Yeah,
And you're thankfully still standing, but Inspector Strahd, he looks and he's like, well, Miss Artie, you may have a point. Nevertheless, this man did resist arrest, and he's wounded one of my men. I still need to take him into the office for questioning.
I'm sorry about that.
who are you again?
I'm trying to get us out of jail. Shut up.
He's like, put them in the wagon. Miss Artie, maybe you are privy to this. Please, come with us.
As the door closes, you go, "Woo, feminism."
Pretty much, you are both taken and thrown into the back of the wagon with the body of the man. What our pieces are able to be picked up off of the street. Basically, you're sitting there, monocles on your hands, cuffed against a wall, a guard inside with you, and the guard up in the front. Yeah, and the horse picks up and starts rolling down the street. You hear police officers shouting at the crowds to disperse, and another cart is behind. You can see through the railings. Another cart is coming behind with the inspector and Miss Artie and Missy.
Is it bright enough to see inside the cart?
It's very dark.
Okay.
You could examine the inside of the wagon that you were in.
I was gonna see if what's left of the guy has anything on him.
You are handcuffed, and there's a guard inside with you, so that might not.
Oh,
be a
I
good
wasn't
idea.
gonna rifle through. I meant like, is he like stabbed or cut up or anything?
Roll observance. Take a disadvantage on that.
So 2.
2.
Yeah.
It's too dark. You really can't see anything in there. You're barely able to see the clothes that you're actually wearing in front of you. It's dark enough, and it's late at night.
Question. I was just kind of confused. The timeline of this. How many months is this before the actual main story?
7 months.
7 months. Okay.
7 months.
So we can be best friends by the beginning of the campaign.
Okay.
So,
Say, Godsmen, where are they taking us?
they're taking you to the office, of course. Well, they will question you and determine whether or not you will be held as guilty parties,
We
or
will be
potentially guilty parties, or set free.
The first one.
Don't underestimate our system of justice. Well,
I've been in jail like 3 times since I got here because I crossed the street the wrong way. Shut up.
it's like,
I'm very angry right now.
oh, you're that one. And he just leans back. Apparently, you have a reputation with the local office
Yeah.
because you're a pickpocket.
Those were my things. I found them.
Upon going into the office, you're sat down in chairs. It's well lit inside the office.
There's a plaque above one that has my name on
Not quite.
it. I'm kidding.
But this conversation is held between Mary and Strahd. Not Mary. Missy, Strahd, and Shirley in the next room. And after a while, they come in to question you. First to you.
Were we able to hear any of their conversation in the other room or no?
Roll observance.
Total of 19.
Okay. You were able to overhear some of it. References to watermobiles and their construction.
Alright.
Their weight and how it would affect the crushing of a person.
I got 13.
The examination of his the corpse, how long he had been dead. Interesting items on his body that apparently have been gone through while you have been waiting.
Alright.
Apparently not much on him. His money and all his belongings that it looked like he had were still on him. So it doesn't look like a robbery you were able to overhear.
So it's just a random murder of anything else?
Or a hit
Yes.
run.
Or that.
Which you wouldn't know of the occurrence of a hit and run because the watermobile, even to you, is still a very strange and you're not quite sure what it is.
Yeah, the only steampunk item I know is just bullshit.
I thought that'd be like common stuff.
Your father's spear. No. This is
My master's spear.
very advanced technology. You have not been in Misty Land in very long.
Yeah, I only know about my clockwork javelin that's passed on to my master. That's it.
I probably know a bit more than you, but not much because I was raised in the higher echelons of society.
I would have been, except I have a tragic backstory.
Well, it was kind of tragic.
Anywho, Inspector Strahd comes in, sits down in front of you, and he's like, if you could please recount to me everything you have seen this evening, that would be much appreciated.
And please don't piss him off again.
Are we in the same room or?
You are both
Oh,
held in the
I
same
thought we
room.
were. So.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I guess one more thing. So how long have we been in this town, or did we just get into this town?
Well, I've been here at least a few days
Okay.
because I've been in jail.
My character,
You've been here for about a month and a half.
a month and a half. Okay.
You did have a job getting here, but you have pretty much depleted all the money you made off of that one.
Oh, oof.
Just trying to live here and find more work.
About the same for me.
You know a few of the constables here,
Oh, that was
but you've never met Strahd.
Alright.
They do not completely trust you because of your
My background.
vigilante type background. You've had a rough dealing with them so far.
So some of the constables I know, are they friends with me, or are they all just like?
They don't trust you.
Okay.
You're not
Even
very
though I know
trusted
some of them
amongst.
by name.
Yes.
Okay.
probably
um,
clients.
You've only been here for about 3 days. You came in on a ship.
All of them in jail.
Yeah, pretty much.
As soon as she get
One of them, it was cold enough at night that you did it on purpose just to have a warm place to sleep.
Hey, cop. I stole this.
That being said, he's asking you to recount what happened so far this evening.
Alright. Wandering the streets after another failed attempt at finding another bounty job of some sort. I hear a man and a woman screaming. But the woman sounded like she was, well, not really screaming, but more yelling in the pleasurable type. So I'm assuming maybe it was a woman who was the mastermind of running this man over, because the man was the one shouting at
You
me.
remember it wasn't pleasurable, it was frightened.
Oh, frightened? Oh, my bad. See, I heard 2 screams,
You
one
need
from a
help.
woman, one from a man. The woman sounded like she was frightened, and the man obviously was the one screaming in pain because he was the one who ended up getting run over. I went to go investigate to see what happened, and I wanted to find out who did it. Simple as that. And then you all showed up.
I didn't realize there were scrambled eggs in here.
That's actually a common occurrence for fried rice. He
Also ran into this man here who apparently was heading in the same direction as me, but
Opposite.
well, opposite direction. But we both ran into each other. But beyond that, I don't know who this man is.
and you, I already know you. I'm half
Hey,
inclined.
Ted.
I'm half inclined to lock you up for the night and charge you with his murder right away. I'd
Wait,
like
what's
to
his name?
Strahd, Inspector Strahd.
Strahdy, baby. How's it going?
He just rolls his eyes.
Am I gonna get my jacket back from you?
No, we found a number of purses in it that didn't belong to you.
Just take the purses. I want the jacket. It's so nice.
The jacket will be divided up its monetary value and returned along with, as part of your punishment.
Savages.
You're telling me they book us for not even
A bunch of
booking
goons.
us?
Do you have anything to say that would help clear your name by chance?
Am I tied to the chair?
Mm-hmm.
I stretch out my legs and spread my arms as much as possible and say, do I look like I could do that to a person?
When did you say you saw him?
Around the same time I came across the body of the man while he was still breathing, trying to see if I can get...
Actually, he was there. He was there first.
Did he come to you after the fact or before?
Yeah. Still didn't know who he was. Tried to question him about it, and all he responded with to me was, "Who are you again?"
He
No, I said, who are you? When
Is
you
it,
asked
who are
who
you?
he writes down a number of things on a notepad he has in front of him, folds it up, sticks it back in his coat. As much as I would love to lock you away for months at a time, it doesn't seem I can catch you for anything tonight.
Ooh, what's the chef's special tonight?
Don't tempt me, boy. And he gets up, throws his chair back under the table. Henry! Oh, no, not Henry. I've used Henry way too many times. Jeffrey! Let them go.
Hey, Jeff. How's the wife?
He comes in and he just rolls his eyes. He's... actually, it's not Jeffrey that walks in. It's, Harold. I just keep using the same
Okay.
old names.
Harry, how's the wife?
And he's like, fine, thank you, actually. And you should have seen it last night. She came home with a new set of flowered tea. And Strahd from the other room. Jeffrey!
I was interested in
I
teapots.
I told you to get in there and untie them. Harold's in there fraternizing with the customers again. And
If I'm a customer, why haven't you given me anything?
he just totally ignores you from the other room. Obviously, you're irritated by the whole ordeal. You're both untied.
I'm much more at home
The
at a
only reason my
jailhouse than
character
anywhere
is
else.
not his normal self is because being jobless for a bit, it probably lets some irritated.
I like to
beyond
think you have
belief.
like a slight scruff.
No, remember, I
You
have
can't
a-
afford a razor.
He has his helmet on at all times.
Oh, okay.
I
I thought in town you would have it all.
No. You go out into the main room, and Miss C and Miss Artley are sitting there, Shirley Artley. And they're standing there, and he's like, I've been where you are. It isn't fun.
Tell me about it.
Hey, I happen to like. No, you're right.
You seem to be a bit of a person who might have connections with the underground. I might have use for you. Would you, by chance, be interested in assisting me?
In what?
I have a couple of things I'd like to come to the bottom of. I've been trying out a new occupation, you see. The inspector, he's oftentimes a little dense when it comes to observing the facts.
Oh, that was
Yeah, old Teddy's kind of dumb.
Well, you see, I like to approach things from a much more scientific point of view. There's this wonderful thing
You want the body, don't you?
Well, that would be wonderful. I could do so many wonderful tests on it. But no, there's this wonderful thing I've come up with called deduction. By observing certain scientific facts in order and synchrony, I have found that I can come up with interesting facts that other people cannot observe with the normal naked eye.
Hence your
You mean guessing?
magnifying looking invention that you had earlier.
Yes, quite. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw.
Oh, wait, this is Artie
many
saying
of
this?
details.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was the dude.
No, it's
Okay.
Miss Shirley Artley.
So, well, yeah, I could clearly see before I was tackled to the ground all the fine details that were coming out of it.
Yes, it is lovely what it does, doesn't it? I've oftentimes been able to find certain grains of dust that are obviously not from certain parts of town, and have helped me solve wonderful mysteries.
Maybe we can trade some. What's the word?
There was even one time when there was a dog that was far too large by rumors, but it turned out that it was just a puppy. It was wonderful. And at this point, Missy steps up. You're running off on rabbit trails again, Miss Shirley. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe we can trade some tips and tricks on inventing.
Possibly.
And then I
But
pull out my
what
little
I was
thing.
looking from you was underground connections. I found that information networks by those in the underbelly of a city can oftentimes be much more valuable than those in proper means.
I mean, how do you know? How do you think I know all the guards' names?
Obviously.
Any assistance that I can do with?
Don't you two work together?
No.
She's not privy to your relationship as it is. She just came to the scene and found both of you over top of the body.
No, of course not. I just ran into him trying to help the poor man that got ran over, and then he came out of nowhere.
Oh wait, wonderful. She stops and she turns and starts walking around you. She says like, leather armor, quite worn.
I don't have the javelin, correct?
You do not have the javelin.
Where's
Otherwise,
the
I wouldn't be in
current
the same room.
You do carry a regular javelin.
The javelin. Where's my current one though?
Your
I mean, my-
electrical one?
Yeah.
That would be held by your master, who is still aging.
Okay.
But back on the mainland and go.
Okay.
You're basically trying to find enough money to be able to get back off of the island and, go back home to visit him again.
Yeah.
She starts looking around. Rough edges. Interesting craftsmanship. You're a bounty hunter, aren't you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't had the
Much
best of
work
luck.
lately, yes, I can tell. Your irritated stance and overall lack of nourishment and fatigue. It's obvious you haven't eaten in a day or two. I might be able to fix that, though.
Stomach starts growling.
I just yell, food!
Yeah.
It's like, it's obvious what you want. Just make sure you don't use your slippery fingers at my home. If you would, please. And she walks over to the wall and she pulls off an interesting device off the wall, something you've never seen before. Turns something on the side of it, puts it up to air and says, yes, if you could please, Harold on 25th Street. I keep using Harold. I'll use a different one. Bronze. Yes, Bronze, please. We're ready. We're over at the office with Inspector Strahd. Would you mind coming and picking us up? We have a couple other people. Yes, thank you. And she puts it up. Her obviously somewhat talking to herself. You start to question her sanity.
Start.
It's stuck. What's the name of her assistant or the other lady that's with her?
So far, she's only been called Missy.
Missy,
She looks like a governess.
a governess.
Yes.
Can I whisper, like, lean over to Missy? It's like, has she always been like this?
Insufferably.
I
How
like
have you
it.
managed so long?
Oh, she's quite adorable once you get to know her.
Fair enough.
Little time passes. You all walk outside the front of the building.
Before we leave, is the constable still there or whatever?
There is one constable sitting at the desk.
Say, hey, constable. I want to tell the other, if you can, tell the other guard whose hand I broke. Sorry. And I just closed the door.
He's like, yeah, Bill was a little sore about that already, but at least he'll have some workman's comp. We may talk to you about
They
that
are
later.
really far advanced in their
Workman's comp.
It's a very advanced for the time and era, but as you step out onto the much colder now, wet night, foggy air, shortly down the street you see lights and this 6-wheeled cart with a strange glass, wall on the front of it, strange cylinder out the front, and plated in metal, wood, and no horse drawing it. Just walks up and whizzes up, parks, and is oozing steam out of pipes and whatnot, and it's got this small, low rumble to it.
Magic horse cart.
Pretty much.
No, I say that out loud. Magic horse cart.
Actually, it's Stream Divin, darling. My father is one of the main manufacturers of them. Please, have a seat. And she opens up doors in the side, gets in. Do you both get in?
Yes.
Okay.
I wait for him to get in first, see if it's
Yeah,
safe.
I just walk in and sit down.
At this point, you are, the doors close, and the driver just pulls a lever, and the machine just starts driving forward into the night. And you can't see very far in front of you, but he's got goggles and whatnot. He keeps pulling up a rag and wiping them off as the fog keeps collecting on the lenses. And the drive time is quite interesting, but Miss Artley, she typically is spending a lot of time writing down in her notes.
Of all my time staying here for about almost a few weeks now, this has to be one of the more advanced machinery I've seen of some sort.
It is quite new, actually. My father, like I have said, helps manufacture them. They're actually driven by a crystalline coil that heats water until it steams, building up pressure inside a canister, which helps push pistons, which turns a lever and basically turns the wheels.
That gives me an idea.
Aren't ideas lovely?
Yes. Speaking of which, is that magnify thingy, madame, your only invention?
Oh no, of course not.
Can I say some more?
No, possibly. My laboratory is back at our home, at the estate.
I'm just kind of twitching, like, in my head I'm saying, don't steal, don't steal. This is what got you in trouble last time.
Crystalline, you say? I've only come across one invention that is crystalline to it. It's the only invention I've only been really familiar with, which is why I know this sort of technology exists, but I haven't seen any of this caliber.
What other kind of what other things have you seen made out of this?
My master, he has an electrolance.
When I hear Electrolance, I say, is he here?
No, he's in the mainland.
Oh, thank you.
There's an electrified lance, and it's powered by crystalline as well.
I see. Quite interesting. What does it do?
Just a normal lance, but whenever you press a certain mechanism on it, the gears start kicking in, activates the crystalline. Now it's electrified.
Electrified.
In some cases, maybe you can even shoot electricity too. My master hasn't bothered to test it though, so I'm not too sure about that yet.
Fascinating. That gives me an idea for a wonderful device that could disable someone. Oh, so devious. And Missy, she's just sitting there and she's like, oh no, not again.
Again.
Pulls up a handkerchief and she dabs her forehead as if she's just terribly worried at where these experiments are going to involve her as a test dummy.
Oh.
I'm just rubbing my hands together. I get the feeling we're going to be very good friends.
Oh, that's wonderful. As you say that, Missy kind of, moves and literally just reaches over, grabs Miss Shirley, and moves her over to the other side and scoots over so that Miss Shirley is now in between you and Missy.
I didn't mean that kind of friends.
She's like, no, you make me rather uncomfortable.
You could both kick my ass. I'm like 5 feet tall.
Miss Shirley's actually about a couple inches shorter than you, actually.
I pick her up and put her back and scoot over and sit next to Artie again. Can I roll a strength check for that?
Go ahead.
I don't think that's gonna end well for you, but.
Let's see.
8.
As you make the motion to reach over and grab Miss Hartley, you find a device pointed in your face. It has 3 barrels on it. And it looks menacing. And she's like, don't even think about touching my mistress. Sit there and keep your hands to yourself, even if I do have to have her in between us.
I was reaching for the girl in between me and
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But she is literally reaching around her with this
Oh,
new
Artie's
device.
doing this?
No, Missy is reaching around Miss Artley and pointing it into your face because
Missy's
Miss
in
Artley
between.
is now in between.
No, Missy's the governess.
Oh.
Missy's the governess that you were
I
making feel.
misunderstood. I thought she was between me and Artie, so we couldn't talk anymore.
No, she was feeling uncomfortable
Can I
sitting
take
next.
back what I did? Because I completely misunderstood.
Too late.
Ah, shit.
Pay attention next time.
I did. You said it wrong.
She
Chat,
Moves
who
it-
is right?
moves. She moves a mechanism and puts it back down, obviously seeing that you've backed off. And after a few more minutes of awkward driving,
It's like, oh, we almost there.
you do feel somewhat sick from the motion sickness. You're not quite used to this,
Yeah.
but you do come to a gate.
This whole time, I'm continuing to try to talk to Miss Artie about her inventions. Whether she wants to talk to him anymore is up to her.
You continue to question her, but she's still sitting there writing down notes and stuff in her books. And you end up driving up to a gate. The driver honks a little squeeze horn on the side, and the gate opens up. And you find yourself coming up to a very well-lit estate. The lights are not oil lights on the outside. They actually appear to be a very, very rare and very expensive crystal that glows about as bright as the sunlight during the day. Often been compared to that, but in this planet there's blue sunlight. This is a more of a yellowish sunlight.
So is most of your estate powered by crystalline?
Crystalline is, quite expensive, but it's the best, and so, of course, my father does always purchase the best.
I say, I always preferred the more mechanical technology, where I can see how it works.
Mechanical is wonderful, yes. Chemical, now that is exceptional. And
Show me.
she jumps over top of the edge of the car, doesn't even bother opening up the door. Missy opens up the door.
Can I try to apologize to Missy?
You can attempt. She's on the other side of the vehicle.
Okay, can I walk up to her and try to apologize?
Okay. As she's trying to get out, you quickly get out and walk around.
Like, I don't have to...
You should roleplay it before you roll for it.
Oh, yeah. I walk up to her and I say, I am so sorry about earlier. I somehow mixed the two of you up.
She just ignores you completely. And
I
continues.
rolled a 19, too.
With that speech, heck no. You'd have to quit running to be able to pull that one off.
A nat 20 for that.
For roleplay like that, I'd have to require a 20 off of that one.
Okay.
But she just continues walking on into the house. Both of you going to follow?
I'm just gonna retort. Just like, nice one. And just keep walking.
At least I didn't break a guard's hand.
As you all come into the house, there are a number of maids, butlers waiting for them upon their arrival.
How
Miss-
well dressed are these people?
Very. well dressed.
Okay,
They are.
I am just continuously twitching.
Okay.
Not like visibly like that, but like just kind of on the inside.
Mentally, just a little uncomfortable and twitching because of your background.
Yes.
Okay.
My character's feeling a little sad. And it's just like, this reminds me of home.
Yeah.
Me too.
So as you step in, her overcoat, her overshawl coat, long. Think of a trench coat, but a little bit more feminine.
Alright.
Plaid, and her matching hat that she wears. She takes it off, and you're both surprised to see that Miss Artley has short cropped hair like a boy. And as opposed to Missy, who has long braided hair. But she
You
takes
mean you
off
don't
her.
all have the same haircut here?
Do you actually say that?
Yeah.
She's like, yes, my father doesn't approve, but you know, he's not the one with the scissors.
You give a thumb up and said, yes, I agree.
New
Or
style.
approve, not agree.
I haven't seen a style like that before. It looks good on you, man.
Why, thank you. And she's like, Father, I'm home. Where's Father? And one of the butlers, as she's laying her cloak and her hat and her bag and whatnot into
Didn't hear you
his.
got hit by a truck earlier.
She just looks back at you. She's
That's
like,
out of character.
remember shadow clones if you do that. Shadow clones. You gotta remember the shadow clones, otherwise I'm gonna take it seriously.
Okay, sorry.
Anywho, one of the butlers just whispers over, your sister and he are talking in the next room. And,
You have a sister.
oh yes, my sister Mary, yes, Mary Artley.
She just as inventive as you.
Oh, on the contrary, she likes to stay reading her books and use her knowledge in more of a scholarly way than an experimental way.
I say, why can't you do both?
I prefer to do both, yes, but once I've read a book once, I typically remember it and then apply it. And she'll continue to read a book over and over again,
Can you tell me
looking
what
for
these
new meaning.
time traveling books I got in 8 months say?
Hush. And
Do you know the inscription of this weird scribble from this journal of a bounty that I got 8 months in the future?
hush. She says, well, if you could please inform him that I will be in my laboratory. I have some things to write down and some things to investigate. She ends up, she turns to you, follow me if you would please. Takes you through a number of halls, pictures lining walls, busts of old and past family members, paintings, quite wealthy tapestries depicting old historical events. Lots of different things, much wealth. Any one of these things that you took and sold would probably, one, come back to haunt you, two, make you filthy rich.
I like to think I'm experienced enough to know that.
Yes, that's why I gave it to you.
Okay.
Oh.
Him, on the other hand, he probably isn't.
Finally, she turns to one of these doors, opens it up, and steps inside, reaching over, grabbing a lever on the wall and turning it, and lights light up the room. And this isn't typical crystalline light. It's a strange tube of glass with light emanating from it.
I'm going to go examine the
It's
tube.
It's not crystalline. What do you call this?
It's like, oh, it's a water bulb. It's an interesting way that we can use water with the correct chemicals and pass a current through it, and it illuminates. It's quite lovely.
Interesting.
And as your eyes get used to the rest of the room, there's all kind of scientific apparatus, chemistry supplies, number of books, notes out, various body parts from animals, skulls, bones, some of them in the process of once being ground up and left on paper, other chemicals nearby, various pages set out with obviously piles of the same bone with different chemicals applied to each one to see their reaction. lots of experimenting going on in this room for the sake of learning.
Okay. I turn to her and I just say,
Is Missy still
"Are you
with us?
single?"
She turns to you and says, "I withhold the right to answer that question, thank you."
Is Missy still with us?
I'm in
Yes.
love.
It's like, I take it she's busy all the time.
Most times, yes. I usually find myself just sitting in this corner sleeping. Or trying to fix her up after she's broken something.
I don't say this out loud. My character took that as a hard maybe, so he is in a good mood right now.
Okay.
But it's like, that being said, all right, madam, we're here in your estate. We're here in your laboratory. What would you like from us to do for you?
Well, at this moment, I do have to pull out some information. She goes over to a shelf, pulls out a box with numbers of papers, puts some notes down on the table, and she's like, "Can both of you read?"
See,
I can.
Mexican is not a language in this world.
the language isn't Mexican; it's Spanish.
Okay. Spanish is not a thing in this world.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Make a fool of yourself, you did.
you're the one who called it Mexican.
I can
For
speak
sure.
Yoda.
Okay.
I say yes.
Okay, she's like, "Well, these are my notes on particular treads that I took note of on the body, even though it was quite fresh. They may be a little rough, but this stack of papers," and she lifts out, almost, quite huge for a person of her size, huge for you still, lifts out, she's like, "is records of every different type of tire tread that I have ever seen produced. And what models of car they are applied to. Some have multiple models, etc., etc., but I would like you to help me look through them and see if we can find a tread that matches. We could possibly narrow down the culprit by the model of their car."
Okay, I go and I grab a quarter of the stack and move to the side and start going through them.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab another stack and then start sifting.
I grab a quarter because that's all I can carry.
Okay.
Because I have so little strength.
All right. Roll observance for both of you.
Total of 23.
Total of 15. Yeah, 15.
Okay. You end up finding about 2 possibles. You end up finding about 7 in your stack. There's about 14 others that Miss Artley finds. Missy is, in the meantime, preparing a cup of tea and passing it around to each of you. And there's a couple of small cakes that are served to you as well while you're doing this.
I would have done better, but I was too distracted trying to think
So she's
think
passing
ways
it
to
us.
Mm-hmm.
Is it-
impress Artley.
Thank you, madam. And then, I don't think... Did I ever explain to you how my helmet works or whatever?
Yeah,
It has
you did.
A little
Yep.
flap
You
on there.
just
So you
lift up
literally
the
can't
visor.
take your helmet off?
I can, but I choose not to.
Oh, okay.
It's like, is it that scary to reveal your face to a woman, or can you not have some manners in a house of estate and, take off a helmet when you're eating?
Oh, calm down. He's just shy.
Sorry, madam. Part of the job. As a bounty hunter, can't really let anyone know what my face looks like.
I see. So uncivilized. And she goes right back to her work. You end up draining the pot multiple times over.
I'm guessing
Missy,
y'all just ignored
Missy
me.
oftentimes, literally bringing up a pot, setting it down, and taking the other one to go make another pot of tea.
I try and sneak a few cups in between him gulping it down through the pot itself.
Oh, each of you are served every time she comes around. She
Okay.
refills your cup.
Anyways,
But
so
I
are we
asked,
still
do you-
looking,
Mhm.
or no?
this
Is
happens.
coffee
This
a thing in
happens
this
fine.
world?
Possibly.
I'm going to ask if they have coffee.
Okay.
Because I get the feeling I have a very hyper character, so he likes coffee.
It's a very, very rare thing.
They are very, very rich.
You could ask about it. Go ahead and do a charisma check on it.
17 plus 11. Got a 28.
I don't even need to roll up against that. As at the mention of coffee, and she's like, "You mean roasted beans and brewed?"
Yes, coffee.
And you're a thief. Quite curious. But,
Thieves stay up all night, honey.
She turns over and she brings...
I mean, I'm not a thief.
She brings up... looking at you, she has deduced, what you do for a living quite easily.
I know, I'm still going to pull that.
She pulls over an interesting chemical apparatus. And...
It's a Kruger.
It's got weird heaters, and it looks...
Rube Goldberg.
It looks very strange, but she proceeds to distill water and make coffee with a strange chemical apparatus instead of doing it like normal people do when they're wealthy enough to do it in a pot. And Missy, around the corner, she just rolls her eyes.
So
and
this is Artie doing this?
Artie is
Okay.
making the coffee.
And I proceed to fall further in love.
I lean over to Misty and say, I take it that's not too sanitary, is it?
And she's like, it's not that. Can't a person just use a coffee pot?
Can I roll observe to see if I heard that?
Go ahead, sure.
Because I have thief ears. It's 13.
I need to actually write that down as a skill because I have thief ears.
I have skill points.
What was the number?
It was 13.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
But
I'm too distracted by the coffee and the girl I'm falling in love with.
Miss Artley ends up bringing a nice big tankard of coffee over to you, rich and black with no sweeteners in it, and takes one of her own and just proceeds to down nearly the entire thing, and then set it down and continue pouring through her papers.
Okay. Danny is normally a sipper, but he wants to impress her.
Roll a vitality check.
I got a 21.
That'll be enough. You're able to pass the choking of the extremely strong coffee that she has made. You get to the bottom of the tankard, and you have tears around your eyes. You've burned your throat, and you're sitting there.
Yum!
And Miss Artley looks over at you, and she's like, boys. Obviously not impressed.
I'm just gonna be over here just shaking my head.
I'm gonna walk up. How do I impress her?
I'll be like, you're on your own for
Okay.
that.
How do I impress her? Because I'm so much
You're
shorter than
on
you.
your own for that.
I look over at Missy and see that remember that she's really pissed at me and just not do the same thing to her.
Okay. Upon reaching to the end of your paper stacks, it has been many, many hours.
Hence the coffee.
And even past that.
Oh.
And
Did I find any more? Or is it just the 7?
it's just the 7, yes.
Okay.
But Miss Artley, though she is working like a steam engine, she decides that it's time to wind down, and she curls up in a very large red armchair in the corner and proceeds to very, very slowly go through a few other papers as she lights up a pipe and begins to smoke it in her chair as she's going through these papers. And she sits there for a little bit, kind of tired, and then she looks up. Oh, I'm sorry, do you care to smoke?
What is it?
Tobacco.
There's like 17 things you can smoke, I'm guessing, in this world, I thought. You had narcotics as a drug, so I just thought it was dinner.
Yeah, well, she upon the mention, she's like, do you like things stronger? Maybe we should do something interesting tomorrow then, when I have more of myself about me.
Marijuana.
Okay, is she asleep now?
And Missy's like, oh please, Miss Otley, don't please. And she's like, please, gentlemen, if you could, it's a good deal time to be going to bed, if you would please. Their rooms have been prepared for you, please, if you would.
Alright, thank you.
As we exit the room, I turn to you and shake you and go, she's perfect!
Please keep all that to yourself.
looking at your very fashionable, robust clothing and silk adornment. Each of you are sent to a room. It's pretty
You
lush.
know, whether I actually
As we're going to
get
rooms,
the girl
is
in
Missy,
this,
like,
it's still
taking us to
hilarious.
rooms, or
Pardon?
is Missy taking us to the room, or just one of the random mains?
It's Missy.
Alright.
She drops you off because she does seem to be a bit of a maid
Okay.
/ governess in the house, still a
Alright.
servant.
There's one question I want to ask her, but Eric, before she leaves after she drops you off at my room.
Mhm.
It's like I never got to ask Miss Otley because we were busy sifting through these papers. But have there been a lot more of these strange murders going on around the city, or is this just the only one?
Oh, well, there's always murders going on in the city, but this is the first one that we've had to deal with in such close proximity to our own interests. We haven't had any situations where a watermobile possibly killed someone. This is quite unique. This is probably why Miss Otley is taking such a passion to this. It distracts from her usual goals.
That being.
I'm not at liberty to say.
Excuse me for trespassing then.
But she leaves you to each of your rooms.
I'm gonna try one more time to properly apologize to her. Is that possible?
You're very tired.
Okay.
I would definitely make
I
you
drank
roll
all
with
that coffee though.
disadvantage for that.
Okay.
You are very fatigued.
Okay, I'm still gonna try.
Okay.
Burnt your
Roll,
throat.
Roll
with,
play.
roll with disadvantage then.
Okay. I.
Don't even bother.
Oh, don't. Okay.
Crit
Nat
20.
20. Oh.
Nat 20.
Why must you
I will
roll
save
against
you the
me?
pain since we are tight on time tonight, just to be safe.
You still leaving at 9?
What time is it right now?
7:51, so
7:51.
hour 9 minutes.
So we can still play. It's fine.
Yeah.
If anything, I can leave at 9:30 if needed. I'll just tell her I'm running late.
She just, as you try to say something, she just turns around and, as she shows you the room and just walks away.
Are we in the are our rooms next to each other, or are they in different parts? Of the
They're,
hall?
they're right next to each other,
Yeah.
yes. There's a number of guest rooms in this
I
wing.
was like, just save it for tomorrow, man.
Okay. And I pat you on the lower elbow. I say, I'm sorry. I haven't had many friends lately.
Fair enough, lad.
I know I'm awkward. And then I go to my room.
As you're leaving, it's like I haven't had really the pleasure of having many friends myself due to my occupation, but it is what it is. See you in the morning.
Ditto. And then
Both of you end up,
conking out
just
immediately.
conking out. You're woken up by a knock at your door. The sun is already coming in through the windows, quite a lot actually. It seems that staying up so late into the evening has kept you asleep
Not
into
Crocs.
quite a bit of the day. You were actually woken up by Miss Artie coming and knocking at the door, and she's like, "If you could meet me in my laboratory after you've eaten something, I found something interesting this morning."
Yes, madam, will do.
I am up immediately and getting dressed
Okay.
in one of my my other outfits.
One of each of you end up having a butler coming into your room, just unannounced, just walking in, aiding in getting you dressed and bringing you breakfast.
Can I actually shoo the butler away? Is it
Roll a charisma check off of that one.
just because of my helmet's sake or whatever?
You probably slept in your helmet.
Oh. Fair. If that's the case, then nat 20.
You punch him in the face when he opens the door.
No. It was like, oh hell no.
You know what's coming. He's like, all right, sir. I'm sorry. Here's your breakfast. I'll leave you to dress yourself then.
Alright, thank you.
I just go.
You say thank you and nothing against you. It's just I'm more of a private person.
He's like, understood, sir.
I'm just happy to have I miss the rich lifestyle so much.
You You end up putting your arms
Yeah,
out,
that's
standing
exactly
there,
what I was gonna do.
standing there in the nude as he dresses you in a spare outfit from the house that they have there, taking your old, somewhat filthy outfit, even though it is quite fancy. And
I take out a purple vest and put it over it just to have some color.
just out of your bag.
Yeah, I have 3 outfits.
Yeah. Well, at this point,
Oh.
you only had the one.
Oh, okay.
So.
I just wasn't wearing my vest earlier because I was sneaking.
You end up being put in a fairly nice black jacket, white shirt, dressed up quite nicely.
With my purple vest.
Yes.
I decided to actually take off my helmet, but remember how I said I have that kind of sort of not bandana, but the cowl.
Yep.
Mask cowl. I decided to put that on instead.
Like Zorro?
No, not like Zorro. It's a little more like how do I describe
Like
it?
an executioner's hat.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's like basically my eyes would be revealed, but everything else would be covered like this.
Yeah, that's kind of like Zorro
like a reverse
from the
Zorro.
new Zorro. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen the new one.
I haven't
just remember
either.
the old
Oh,
one,
you're
the
talking
eye
about it
patch.
covers
I
the
was-
lower half or the top half? Lower half is covered or the top half is covered?
No. It's gonna be like a cowl, overall. But
Okay,
it
so
kinda
it's the
goes
top half.
Think of it like a
It's
I guess
exactly
like a-
what Zorro wears in the
Okay,
new
yeah.
one. With,
hijab or something.
what's his name? The famous Spanish actor who was in Spy Kids.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he had.
So just imagine a hijab.
Actually, no. How would I describe it? You played Skyrim, right?
But we got it.
Okay.
We got it.
Shroud.
You have a
Whatever.
wrapped around your head.
Yeah, only my eyes are showing. Everything else is
So,
covered.
so you've got your helmet set aside. Are you going to wear your armor or no?
Well, she gave us clothes, so I'll just put my armor aside for now,
Okay.
or whatever, and just dress
Is,
myself.
is
Just
there
keep your mask.
utilities like wash my face and brush my teeth? And
There is a
I
basic
make
mask.
sure-
That's why I'm going to do that. I'm going to wash myself.
stuff? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I make sure to do that.
And you eat your
I
breakfast
check myself out in the mirror.
privately. You look more dashing than you have in many, many years. And you probably won't leave the house without taking the outfit with you.
Give the beggar, please let me keep it.
You took my only clothes to
You-
wash and you never gave them back.
you finish your
Morning rituals.
You finish your morning what you would need, and you end up going back to the laboratory. And Miss Artley is not there.
No.
There are a number of documents and whatnot. You've been allowed to somewhat move about the mansion, seeing as you're a guest of Miss Artley and you knew your way.
Alright.
There is quite a bit of notes and whatnot across the tables where she is working, etc. You may look around, examine.
I wanna
guess
see if
while
she-
waiting, I want to read the notes to see what she's jotted down so far.
Okay.
While he does that, I'm gonna look around. I'm not familiar with the chemical stuff at all, so I'm gonna look and see if she has any devices that would be more up my avenue that I could look at.
Okay. Roll observance for yourself.
Oh, was that him or me? Okay.
Total of 13.
13. Okay. As you're looking, you don't seem to find the notes you're looking for, but you do end up finding quite a few other notes. Mentions of early death of a mother figure. Mystery around a certain relative that isn't quite known who it is. Your question marks. A few lines and strings have been pinned to various spots on the desk. You realize that if you move everything, it would probably screw up some pattern that
I'm not
she's
gonna
been
touch
tracking.
it.
Um,
Well,
But-
it's kind of like those investigative things where they have like the
pretty much,
screens.
yeah. But it's out on a desk.
Okay.
The walls are too,
Yeah.
valuable for her to be able to deal with that.
Yeah, so it's all over the desk. Okay.
But you are able to deduce from this that she is trying to discern what happened to her mother. And it seems to be kind of a passion of hers. You go ahead and roll observance now.
19.
19? You end up finding a number of small, interesting, unfinished devices. Some spring-loaded contraptions, projectile knives, knife throwers.
See if I can
stuff like
see
that.
anything that would be useful just for my gauntlet trying to upgrade it and improve it.
The knife projector ends up the projectile knife thrower seems like it might have some interesting components to it that might improve your existing model.
Okay. I take some spare paper from the area and jot down the design that I can see.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and make a dexterity check off of that.
See if I just squiggle. Dex. 18.
18. That'll be enough. You're able to make a somewhat decent drawing of it. About the time that you finish drawing that up, Miss Artley comes into the room.
I yell, this isn't patented, is it?
And she looks over and she's like, "Oh no, feel free to yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Allow me to introduce my sister, Mary." And Mary comes into the room. She is stark contrast from her sister. Mary has very long, blonde, or almost white hair, very fair skin, while Shirley is kind of darker hues to her skin, freckles, and dark hair. Almost polar opposites of each other, and Mary is quite tall. Nearly a foot taller than Shirley, and stands about eye height with you.
Alright.
With him.
She actually is carrying a number of books under her sleeve and sipping a cup of tea as she's walking. It's obviously she was just following along to meet and see what was going on. She comes into the room.
Morning, madam.
Good morning, whoever you are. What was the purpose of dragging me down here again? And she turns to Shirley. He's like, I've actually been discussing with these fine gentlemen and observing last night the potential of interesting watermobile murder last night. And she curiously tilts her head and she says, watermobile murder? How does a watermobile murder someone? She's like, no.
I say the same way a knife does.
You mean the person wielding it murdered someone?
Yes.
It's like, Shirley, use your language properly, please. And Shirley turns to her and is like, oh, push the small insignificant things. It's the finer details that are quite brilliant. And they obviously have a bit of a rough, not quite rubbing each other. Yeah. Rival sisters, basically. And about this time, one of the butlers shows up, and he says, pardon me, Miss Artley. The master would like to see our guests, if possible. And Mary says, I'll bring them up right away. Not Mary, Shirley.
Shirley.
And so, very good, ma'am. And he turns away. He's like, well, I guess this will have to wait until later then. And she sets her documents and whatnot aside.
Can I observe Mary's voice and see if I recognize it from the night before?
Sure, go ahead.
That's a total of 8.
Total of 8?
Yeah.
It does not have the same shrill tone that the voice the night before had.
Okay.
But as you continue on down the hall, you end up being taken up a number of floors to a large, very ornate office, very large double doors entering it. And you are introduced by Shirley to Mr. Lord Artley. Morris Artley is his name.
Mr. Artley Morris.
And he's like, greetings, my new and yet once again strays that my daughter has brought home. What do you want to say?
I blanked.
Are you sure you're not the one that's tired here? I'm the one that's tired and running a campaign out of
More
my
than one of us
butt.
can be tired.
I haven't slept since 9:41 last night. Okay.
No, I remember. I just Because I don't want you to take this seriously, I walk up and say, "Hello, I would like to marry your daughter." The good one, not the weird one.
As you step into the room, you are obviously watching every move that Shirley makes, completely ignoring Lord Morris Hartley. And he, observing both of you, he just gives you a bit of a look that catches your eye, just for a moment.
I stand at attention.
It catches you up. Meet me in my chambers afterwards.
He
Well, I mean, my character is bi, so...
he turns, shakes his head a little bit, and he's like, "And why, Shirley, have we brought these ones home this time?"
Because I'm pretty.
It's obviously not that, young man. My daughter has a knack for doing this.
Wait, she's talking to us or Shirley?
He's talking to Shirley, and Shirley says, "Actually, these men were quite, immediately present to an interesting murder case last night involving a potential automobile homicide. It was quite fascinating. In fact, I was wondering if I could get access to a few of your notes about different models and which tires we end up, or the wheels we end up putting on them, to cross-reference the treads and see if we can't track where the automobile was possibly shipped to." And he stops for a moment. He's like, "I'm sure I could compile the notes together, but as far as I'm concerned, it would take some time, and I'm quite busy. I just wanted to try to find out what exactly we have these two gentlemen here for, and why we are having them live in our house, while you're doing this yet again, investigation." And she's like, "Well, I wanted to keep them close. They seemed quite capable, each in their own way."
I puff up. Say,
And he says, "Well, they'll have to be gone by tonight. I don't want strangers in my home, as I have said before, and we can get you the documents tomorrow."
I walk up and hold out my hand. "I'm Danny.
Charmed.
We're no longer strangers."
Still, I don't want an acquaintance in my house overnight that I didn't invite myself, thank you.
Understandable.
I'm just gonna Danny, please.
I whisper,
I'm just gonna
She
brush him off
is
again.
my daughter, young man.
I whispered him. Nobody can hear.
I'm still gonna brush him off, just...
Morris Artley has specific skills.
It's acquired over
Okay,
a
then
lot.
I'm very embarrassed that he heard me.
As you turn red, he looks over to Shirley, and she just smiles and rolls her eyes as she kind of, moves a leg off to the side, just kind of nervously waiting for this meeting to be over so she can get what she wants and get back to her hobby. And
Of 80s movie String Board.
pretty much. And he says, "Oh, by the way, there's a dinner tonight. I thought you might want to know. We are having some wealthy guests over, of course." And she's like, "Oh, very well, Father. Can I bring my new friends?" And he's like,
She said we're friends.
and he turns quite perturbed. He's like, "They must leave after dinner, not after bedtime."
Thank you for your grace.
That depends on when you identify bedtime is.
I'll just bow. Thank you for your grace, my lord.
I very stiffly bow to, just like trying to not be an idiot.
"William, please bring in the next group. I have much business to attend to now. Please continue on and try not to get yourselves in trouble." As another group of what appear to be other wealthy businessmen come in, some carrying papers under their arms, others briefcases, etc.
Do any of them have any fancy hats on?
One is carrying a particularly fancy silk purple hat with a yellow feather in it.
I'm debating. Is this how I get one of my hats? It is.
You're gonna roll a sleight of hand?
Yes.
Okay. You're gonna need to use your dexterity for this.
Okay. Come on, come on, come on. I rolled a 19.
Okay. As the crowd of gentlemen are, you immediately target, and you end up grabbing a towel off of the table next to you. Your black suit helping you blend in, and he's like, "Here, sir, let me take your headwear to the rest of our room." And you just very carefully, and he's like, of course, I forgot I was carrying it with me. And he sits down, totally ignoring the fact that you're not a butler. And
I'm in no way dressed like a butler because I have my clothes on.
with the purple vest.
Yes.
But you do have the black,
Oh,
the
okay,
suit
yeah.
and everything with the purple vest over top of it. And he's too busy. He has thoughts elsewhere, and you succeed in acquiring the purple hat that you had the feather singed off of 2 weeks ago. So the rest of the evening, you may do what you wish with the purple hat.
I'm just gonna put it in my bag. It's mine now.
Okay. Shirley, at that moment, as she's walking by, she's like, "Oh, you thought that was good." She holds up 3 wallets as you're walking down the hallway. Each of them, obviously, from a different one of those lords.
I stop. Everybody walks past me, and I go, maybe there is a God.
Come on, don't lollygag.
You're gonna have to move me. I'm in a daze at the moment.
She says, "Danny," throws one of the wallets through the air at you. Are you gonna catch it?
I jump and catch it, and then follow on her heels like a dog.
Okay. She's like, "Oh, that's what I needed," and she stuffs it back in the pocket.
Does she completely misunderstand why I'm following her?
No.
Okay.
No, she doesn't. And she, basically you go back into the lobby, and she's like, "Now, this is the thing. While I was in my father's room, I did notice his schedule for today, and there's about 30 minutes when he won't be in his office during lunchtime. If we plan to schedule our lunch, I think I might be able to use you."
Anything.
There are a number of files in my father's desk drawer that keep shipping records in them. Certain models only go to certain continents and certain types of people. I need those documents, specifically the ones for this tread, the type A5.
You said 30 minutes, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it's in about 25 minutes that he'll have this opening.
Okay. I think I have a plan.
And
I need some paper and a pen. Are there pens in this?
there's ink quills, pens, and papers.
I mean,
all
something
over the
I don't
place.
have to carry an inkwell with.
No, she has it there in the laboratory where you are.
Okay. I just wanted a pen. So.
Okay.
Okay. I need paper and a pen.
You have paper and a pen.
Okay.
She's like, "Get me those documents, and I might be able to track where this car came from."
Okay.
Well, go!
Oh, you said in 25 minutes.
Well, don't you need to prepare anything, or are you just going to wing it like a moron?
You are right.
Go get to it, Daddy.
I go to my... wait, I have my bag with me, don't I?
You do have a small satchel with your hat and whatnot in it, yeah.
Okay, if it has my clothes in it, it has my cloak in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I needed was my cloak.
Okay.
I have my bracer attached to me, and I don't need my knives, so...
Okay. Alright, so you put on your cloak, and you have your grappling bracer.
Mhm.
How are you going to go about this?
Well...
By the time you've prepared this, it's another 5 minutes has passed. You got about 20 minutes
Oh, it's...
before his lunch break.
Oh, okay, and then there's going to be 30 minutes after that.
Yep.
Okay. There's no ventilation here, is there?
Are you asking Miss Shirley?
Well, I'm asking the DM if that exists in this world, so that I can ask Miss Shirley without confusing her.
Oh, you're asking if it would exist in the world?
Yes.
Typically, yes. Certain
Okay.
buildings would have ventilation in them.
Okay, then I ask her, is there ventilation leading to your father's office?
There is. Pretty much every room has access to it,
Is there
but they are
access in
quite
this room?
small. You have a point. She turns to you and she goes over to her desk drawer, opens up, and there's a number of just random loose keys. She moves through and she pulls out one. This is a room 2 rooms down from my father's. It's empty. It's not used very often. Used to be my mother's. Don't touch anything.
Promise.
And then take this. And she hands you a screwdriver. And then she
It's a sonic screwdriver. No.
and then she also hands you a small set of lockpicks. And she turns to you and says, "Chances are good the documents will be locked in a drawer." And she hands you a number of other pieces of paper, and she says, "Copy the information down."
That was actually my plan. That's why I asked for the paper and pen.
Okay. Make sure all the documents get back into the drawer. I can't have him know that I'm missing them, because if I do, I'll never hear the end of it.
And I'll die.
Most likely.
Okay. As long as we understand.
Okay. So, you head down the halls then?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to try to avoid being noticed, or are you going to try to blend in?
I'm dressed like a butler, ain't I?
You are, except for the purple vest and the cloak that
Okay.
you're now wearing.
You're a special butler.
So I'm going to take off my cloak before I leave the room. I take off my cloak and my vest, look butlery, and try to blend in as I go to the room.
Okay.
And my stuff is in my bag. And then once I get in the room, I put the cloak back.
As you walk out the door, Missy has been, present this entire time, and she comes over to you, and she's like, "That won't do. Stop. And she reaches up, combs your hair for you,
Just
and
back up.
she uses some grease
Okay.
and makes sure that it
She's
lays down
slicking your hair.
properly. And you now actually could possibly pass as one of the mansion's butlers. Go ahead and roll a charisma check to see how well you blend in.
Yes.
20, 30. No. Yeah, 30.
30?
Yeah, I'm a
That'll
butler.
work.
I'm just a butler now.
As you're
I did grow up in a rich house, so I know what butlers act like.
as you walk by, one of the maids approaches you, and she comes up. "Sir, someone in room 47 requested you know what. What should I do?"
We have dignity in this household.
Just act as I per se, as I think we should.
Yes.
Very good, sir. Sorry for bothering you. And
No
she
problem.
walks away.
And I wink at her.
Okay. she blushes as you do, and she quickly runs
I
around
like
the
fact
corner.
that if you actually think about it, a lot of the women I flirt with are looking down at me.
This one actually is not looking down at you. She's still quite young, so
Oh no!
not that young,
Oh,
but
thank God.
she's still short enough.
It's a lolly.
She's shorter than you, but you're also stature-wise, you're standing a little taller than you usually do instead of sneaking around because you're trying to blend in.
Okay.
So you're not as short per se as you usually appear to be. You end up making it down to the room that
Okay.
apparently is the mother's, and you enter the room, and you now have about 15 minutes to wait until the room is empty.
Is that well? Obvious. I'm gonna say, as I'm waiting, I put on my cloak again. I keep the vest in my bag, and I look through the tools, make sure I know where everything is, prepare the paper and the pen and everything, be ready, and then wait in the vent.
All right, that'll take you about 2 minutes, and you'll have some time. In the meantime,
I was about to say, meanwhile, all this is going on.
yeah. Basically, you are alone with Missy and Shirley.
Alright, well, he's on his espionage mission. Is there anything that you need from me, madam?
I'm just laying in the vent as close as possible without alerting anybody.
Okay. She said, no, I just need to wait on the information. In the meantime, I've been trying to discover the mystery behind my mother's disappearance when I was a child.
Come again?
Oh, my mother disappeared when I was about 4 years old. I didn't know her very well, and I can't remember much. But she was very sweet, and for her disappearance, many people thought she drowned at sea or something. There was much tension between her and my father.
Sorry to hear that. I can relate to the pain. I lost both of my parents at a young age of 5, so
Really?
been alone in this world since then.
Really?
Yes.
Perhaps you do understand a little bit more than... I have never quite been able to find the truth about my mother's disappearance, though.
Alright. Have you found anything so far? Even the smallest bit of evidence?
No, nothing. Every time I come to a potential source of evidence, when I find it, it seems to be missing or I've gotten lost. I have very little to go off of.
I take it, like, while you were gone, I was trying to see what you've dug up for our investigation so far regarding the Watermobile, but I saw you had a stack over there, but it was very unrelated to the case. What was that one all about? I'm trying to play aloof.
Oh, that's actually all the notes I have.
I mean, aloof is
n-
just what happened.
it's not much. This seems to be, a possible kidnapper. Perhaps my mother's still out there. The only thing I have been able to find is there's a potential for a man out there. I'm not quite sure what the words might be. I have no connections or leads yet, but I did get information that there was possibly another man involved.
Alright. May I see the notes that you have there and study them a bit? Maybe I can help you out.
She takes you over there, and you've seen the notes before. Now that you understand what you're looking at, there seems to be a depiction, someone saying, notes of a witness seeing your mother with a man. It seemed to be an interestingly suspicious meeting. And there was a sketch of the man. Beyond that, there's not much more.
Alright, so it's saying that there is a witness to it or whatever. Has she already talked to this witness? Hence, the sketch and all that? Or whatever?
You ask her this, and she says, yes, the witness was an older woman. She used to live on the moors on the edge of the ocean, but she passed away shortly after I spoke to her. She was very old and ill. But this is the only lead I've ever had so far.
No one else has said anything about this mysterious man that you have
No.
sketched out?
No,
Have you-
everyone I've ever asked has been either uninformed or extremely close-lipped for some reason.
Who were the closed-up ones exact? Do you think they were hiding something?
Oh, well... No, the one who was closed-lipped, I would dare say, has always been closed-lipped, of course. Now that I think about it, I have a hard time keeping my focus in this particular investigation. I think that's part of my problem. I'm not able to remove my emotions from the case as I do in the case with the Watermobile or other such things. My emotions seem to get in the way of my deductions occasionally.
Do you have the name of the closed-lipped man? Maybe there's a possibility that whenever you were in your emotions, that maybe you weren't able to tell by reading his body language or gestures that maybe he was hiding something.
Well, he was a mechanic that works in our factory. It's just down the hill from behind the house. He still works there. His name is Tommy.
Tommy?
He's a mute. But, well, sort of. It seems more voluntary muteness.
Voluntary.
But he's been that way ever since I was a child.
Is there any other ways to communicate with this man if he truly is mute?
No, he usually just looks down and ignores me when I ask him questions, or anyone else for that matter. He just works and nods his head.
Does he know how to read a mind?
He does, but I tried communicating with him this way once, and he did not wish to communicate in that way either. He just stayed about his work.
If you give me permission, maybe I could talk to him in some way.
None of us know you're a sadist, do we?
Shh.
Sorry.
She turns to you and says, well, you aren't emotionally attached like I am. Maybe you would pick something else up.
So part of the job, madam.
The factory is behind the house. Follow the cobblestone steps down to the next shelf of the cliff. Our factory's down there. Ask for Tommy, and you should be able to find him quite easily. He's always working.
Alright.
In the meantime, I'll be here waiting for Danny to come back with the plans.
Alright. I'll be back, madam. And Godspeed to Danny. And if he does come back successfully, tell him I congratulate him. If I'm not here then.
Oh, jeepers. I need to take a break, so give us a little bit, folks. We're gonna go to the please wait, and
Oh, cool.
I gotta take a bathroom break.
Please stand by. Thanks for calling. Hello.
And we're back.
Woo!
Okay, so had to take a moment, reset. So you head out towards the factory, I presume?
Yeah.
You don't meet any direct confrontation, but in the meantime, the amount of time that it takes you to get down there, we have to go back to him. So you end up making it to about the factory door and ask for Tommy, but that was it.
And so this is happening at the same time I'm going there? And
Yep.
everything? Okay.
So you're waiting in the vent for Morris to finish his meetings and whatnot, and they leave.
And I listen to make sure that they all left.
Yep, and you do observe that they have left. You can kind of see from the vent. You pop out the vent and come out.
Is there a way to pop it out where I can just pop it back in?
Yes, these vents are not mounted in such a way
Okay.
that they're going to be,
The point is
broken
to
or
not,
anything.
The point is not to leave any evidence. Okay. I climb in.
He just climbs in, thinks the room's empty. It's like, you thought the room was empty, but it was I, Deal. Still standing in the room, waiting for you.
Don't tell on me, Dio. Okay. So I go and did she tell me which drawer they're gonna be in?
She does not, but there's only one locked drawer in the desk.
Okay. Well, I immediately go for that.
Okay. As you try with your dexterity to pick the lock.
Okay. 20.
Yep, okay. Yeah, you mess around with the pick and whatnot, and you find the little click, you're able to move it. It's not a very advanced lock, but you are able to pull it out. You search around for a little bit in the drawer, and you do find a model by shipping. One other thing, there's shipping, models, archives, blueprints, and there's one other file that stands out. Combes. 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 It's a very thin file in the back. But that's also in there.
Okay. First things first, I'm gonna get making sure to keep the files in order.
Mm-hmm.
I find the ones that I need and copy them down. Just being as careful as possible.
You're able to do that quite quickly. You're able to cycle through. There's not a lot of models for the Watermobile. The file is rather short, and you're able to copy down pretty much all the information of the different models and tires, types, and whatnot.
And who bought what.
And what companies, what continents purchased what. And you don't pay attention much to the details, but you're able to copy it all down within about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, so I still have about 20
minutes left.
Yeah, okay. So I put that back and I take out the... Was it on top of the Combs file?
It was in front of the Combs file. The Combs file was kind of in the back.
Oh, it's a file. Okay, so I put it back very carefully, make sure it looks exactly as it did before, and then I carefully take out the Combs file and look at it.
As you open it up, go ahead and roll observance.
I got 15.
Crit 1.
I see it all!
The universe opens before you.
I see how to impress Artley.
You see a picture of a woman in the file with a ring. The picture is a photograph, something that you have seen occasionally, but not very often. It's a piece of glass, and it looks like the picture was taken and canted.
Okay. Being very careful not to smudge the glass or anything. Is there anything else in the file besides that picture?
There is. The picture also has. The picture is not only just of a woman, but also a man. It looks like they are having a conversation in secret. There's also a birth certificate of a Miss Combs.
Well,
And
sorry.
also identification papers for a Jonathan Combs.
Okay. So is their age? Okay, I'm paying attention to the time. If it gets to 5 minutes till he's supposed to be back, I'm putting everything back the way it was and leaving. So do I have time to look and see any pertinent, like age, name, full names, locations, anything, any of that stuff? 18.
Not so much names. Combs is the only thing there, but you are able to see that this was about 19 years ago
Okay.
that this birth certificate is marked on.
What's the gender?
Female.
Okay. Well, I'm going to write down any pertinent information for that. Not pertinent. Any important,
Obvious.
Any important and obvious seeming information about that. Put it with my put it in my pocket, separate from the others.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to put that back as carefully as I can, exactly how I found it.
Okay.
I'm going to close the drawer and lock it back.
All right. Locking it isn't all that much of an issue.
Okay.
You end up going back to the vent in the floor, crawling back in, and
Close it back.
close it back behind you. You get back out into the other room. Roll an observance check.
Nat 20.
Across the table is a picture of a young girl and a woman, and the woman in the picture is the same woman that you saw on the glass photograph. And the young girl has a somewhat childish resemblance to Shirley. And it is dated 13 years ago.
Okay. Well, I'm out of danger. There's no, nobody's going to come in this room, right? So, I'm going to observe, look at the walls, look at everything in there. I'm not going to touch anything, though.
Okay.
Keeping my promise. 17.
You don't really find much more than various books on the shelf, number of romances, poetry pieces, a fireplace with ash in it. This room has not been touched in a very long time. A lot of it has dust on it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back and try to blend in and get back to the room there.
Okay. Roll a stealth check.
I thought this would be charisma since I'm blending in.
Stealth check to come out the door without being noticed.
Stealth. 23.
Okay. You're able to listen at the door till it doesn't sound like there's anyone in the hallway. And when it doesn't sound like there is anyone, you just quickly lock the door and close it behind you and tighten up your vest and walk down the hallway once again back to the laboratory. As you're walking down the hallway, you hear what sounds like Morris's voice coming towards you from an alternate hallway.
Morris is the father?
Morris Hartley, yes.
Okay. Are there any alcoves or curtains I can hide behind or anything nearby?
There's currently a number of vases and whatnot. You are carrying a towel as part of your butler's wardrobe. There's a number of vases standing nearby, but other than that, not much to hide behind.
Okay, I'm going to go up to one of the vases facing towards the wall away from whoever would be walking towards me, and I start cleaning it.
Okay, roll a dexterity check.
21.
Okay. Morris comes around the corner as you are polishing the vase and whatnot. And as he's walking by, he says, "Oh, and make sure you don't knock over this one. We've lost 2 in the last month to you new butlers." Very good. And they continue walking.
Without facing him, of course.
Yes, because
As is my station.
and they all walk off fast.
Once he's out of hearing and sight, I turn and go back towards.
Roll a dexterity check.
Oh crap. 21 again.
as you turn away, you move the vase and it wobbles and you just barely stop it from falling off its very precarious stand that's not intended to be moved all that often.
Okay. I'm going to turn, straighten my clothes back up, and pretend it didn't happen and walk away.
As you do so, there is that young maid standing in the hallway dusting off one of the pictures, and she just kind of smiles and blushes as you walk by.
She's a lot shorter than me.
Not a lot, but about a couple inches.
I pat her on the head and walk away.
As you reach out to pat her on the head, you do so, and she just dusts it away and keeps, in a frenzy of dusting, continues to dust at the picture.
I'm just imagining an actual cloud of dust obscuring her.
Anyway, you make it back to Miss Artley in her laboratory, and you pull out what files?
I'm going to pull out the important files and present them to her. I got all the files I could find on the information that I brought with me. And I also found this. I don't know if it's important, but it was definitely strange. And I pull out the separate folded up piece of paper and hand it to her for your perusal at a later time.
She looks at it and sets it down, and she starts going through the files. And
Because my character doesn't know anything about the missing mother, so I'm just assuming it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
I just assume she died or something.
As she's going through the files, she starts to slow down as she's reading the files. No, 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 oh no.
I didn't do it!
As she recognizes, she sits down on the table. Oh, Father, what have you done?
Oh, this bodes ill. Sorry, that sounds more like your character. I'm channeling my inner Ingram because he's not here. Is he here? Or is he still down there?
I'm investigating.
Because it's been like half an hour, so...
No, they're focusing on your thing first.
Okay, I just wonder if you're in the room or not.
Nope.
Okay. I just suddenly go,
It's
channeling
still
Ingram.
taking him quite a while to walk down the hill and get out of the building and everything. Because there was held conversation while you were gone already.
Oh, okay.
She, sitting there, obviously somewhat emotionally distraught. She's still holding the other folded piece of paper in her left hand. She looks, and what was this? And she opens it up, and did you sketch the picture of the woman?
Brief outline of the man and the woman's faces.
Okay.
Like, just a brief sketch.
Roll a dexterity check for that for me.
My math went away at 14.
She looks at it. This was in my father's drawer.
A very skinny folder with combs on it. Not the thing, the word combs.
She gets up and she moves over to the desk and sets it side by side with another sketch.
I walk behind her, like, not hovering, but like just watching what she's doing.
The picture that you have sketched almost completely matches the photograph or the description of what was going on. And of what was going on in that picture, the old woman described to her. And she's bending over and she's like, "This is my mother, the day she disappeared. And now I finally have a name for the man. This is interesting indeed."
I hope I've helped and not hurt.
Quite helpful, actually.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's go to your friend, Enigrim. I would rather talk to him sooner than later.
Without saying anything, I have a sudden burst of jealousy.
Okay. I can suddenly see your character as she's putting on her cloak or whatnot to walk outside. You're sitting there, curses.
Damn you!
She ends up pocketing all the information and leaving it in her jacket. As you head down outside to the factory, the lunch hour rings and she doesn't show up.
It froze for a second.
Oh, it happens occasionally. It's weird. But she and you both basically leave the house and head towards the factory. Head to you.
Oh, by the way, before I left, I put my vest back on and took off the jacket
Mm-hmm.
so that I'd be less recognizable
Mm-hmm. Okay.
for the butler walking around.
Got it.
And I pulled the sleeves up.
Got it. As you come into the factory, there's a number of people working, forges going, metal being poured, various different areas where all kinds of different things are being done. And this is not a very highly productive factory. It looks like the few hundred men that are working in here are all working together to build one watermobile.
Alright.
And it looks like they're using specific molds and whatnot for different parts and whatnot, slowly and meticulously handcrafting each watermobile.
I watched the machines and just wondered.
You are not there yet.
Oh, I thought it was. Oh,
No,
this is him.
No,
I
this
thought
is
me
this
and
is
her.
about
Yeah,
10 minutes before you arrive.
Sorry, I thought it was me and her walking in the factory. Never mind.
As you walk in, one somewhat scruffy, dirty, covered in soot man, obviously working with metal quite a bit, with a number of papers on a board to keep them all tied together. He looks at you. He's like, "Yes, what could I do for you?"
Looking for a man named Tommy.
Tommy, what do you need with him?
Special request on my lord's behalf. He wants me to go fetch him.
Well, he's back in the corner. He works with the pressurizer.
Alright, thank you.
You take an observance to look around and see if you can find where he's pointing.
Observance total of 11.
Okay. You get lost about halfway through the factory. You're probably going to need to ask someone else before you get more lost and end up turned
Alright.
around.
Wait, do I see anyone like?
There's a number
Several
of people just walking around working. One couple guys carrying a load in front of you. Other guys sitting here cutting out parts of wood and staining it, varnishing it.
Excuse me there. Do you know where the pressure room is?
The pressure room? Oh, down this lane, past the 3 machines that you see on the end, and then down the hallway to the left. You
Alright.
can't miss it.
Thank you, good sir.
Aye. What was he doing here? As you walk away, it's drawn quite a bit of attention that someone else is looking for the pressure room. As you head back there, other eyes turn to follow you as word someone in here is someone that most people don't know is in the factory. You finally make it to the pressure room, and you knock on the door. Someone comes and unlocks the door, and there's a young man sitting there. He has a scar along the side of his face. His ear has been cut off at some point. He looks somewhat questioning as to why you're here.
Wait, is he the only person in the room when he opens the slot?
It's not. He's opened the door.
Oh, he's opened the door.
room has got some technological stuff in it, but it's just him by himself.
It's just him? Are you Tommy? May I have a word with you, please, on behalf of my lord?
He motions for you to go ahead and come in the room.
Alright,
He
I come in.
moves over on the other side of the piece of equipment he's working. It's a somewhat kind of brass apparatus with a number of cylinders coming out of it all the way around. There's a number of pieces of copper coil, various piles of crystalline on the counter, whatnot.
Alright. As he, ushers me in, and then he walks
Mhm.
towards that stuff. Is his back facing me, or...?
His back does face you for a moment.
Alright, I want to look at the door. Is there a way I can lock it from the inside?
There is a lock, yes.
I'm going to lock the door.
Okay, roll for sleight of hand. Use your stealth.
Stealth. Wait, where was it? It was at, I got 12. I had a total of 14.
14.
You are
A-
not
as
stealthy.
as you reach the lock clicks, He turns to you, looks somewhat worried, and steps back behind the machine, picks up a heavy wrench, or puts his hand on a heavy wrench. Just looks at you curiously.
I'm here to talk. It's private. It's for Miss Otley.
At the mention of Miss Artley, he pulls his hand off the wrench and leans on the machine.
Damn it, a rival.
I know Miss Otley came in here to talk to you some time ago about a mysterious man who was seen with her mom a while back. She said you were probably one of the only few possible people who may know anything about it. But she said for some reason you kept ignoring her.
As you start mentioning this, he looks somewhat worried at the beginning of your statements, and then as you continue on with more details, he suddenly looks down, tries to pick up tools and continue working on his project, trying to ignore you.
As he's working, I just want to put my hand on top of his other hand. Do not ignore me like you did Miss Otley.
Roll an intimidation check off of your charisma.
My charisma, total of 9.
Okay. He sits there and he looks up very worried. Still hasn't said anything.
She also thinks that there's the possibility that you know how to talk. You're just playing the fool here.
Go ahead and roll another intimidation check.
Off my charisma, he said?
Yep.
That one's a total of 11.
He shakes his head no at you. He doesn't say anything.
You sure about that? Because if I find out you're lying, there are things worse than death. And I know how to use it quite well.
He steps back from the machine up against the wall, kind of realizing that there's very little space in between him and the desk and the wall behind him. Somewhat standing there looking at you, confused, unsure what to do.
Look, here's the facts. You're cornered, doors locked behind you, and I'm in your way. So you tell me what I need to know, nothing bad happens. If you lie, obviously there's consequences.
What's your observance stat?
It's a total of 6.
As you're sitting there talking, you notice he's slowly edging towards what looks like a button underneath of one of the tables. It's a few feet away.
Alright. I'm gonna pull up my javelin.
Okay.
I'm gonna pull it. I'm not gonna stab at him, but I'm gonna use it to point at the button. Don't touch it.
Roll a charisma check.
Charisma. That is a total of 15.
As he sees you pull over the javelin, he quick runs over, slams his hand onto it, and alarms start sounding throughout the entire factory.
Oh.
He backs into the corner now, holding onto a wrench, hopefully, hoping that someone will come to save him before anything gets too dastardly. From outside the door, you start hearing pounding on the door, shouting amongst the other men in the factory.
Now you messed up. I just wanted the conversation, but of course you had to be the fool after all. So, that being said, I pick up the javelin. I'm gonna swiftly just butt him in the head with it to see if I can stun him.
Okay. Roll a melee precision.
Maybe. 17.
17. It just barely hits. Go ahead and roll damage on it.
Total of 10.
Okay.
I'm adding us off my strength, correct?
Yep.
Right.
Strength
10.
plus whatever you have for strength modifiers off of weapons and
Yeah,
whatnot.
so total of 10.
Okay. He takes the blow, and he starts to have blood running down the side of his face as he stumbles back, but he is not knocked out. At this point, he rushes forward at you, this rather large wrench swinging at you. Roll a dexterity save.
Total of 20.
Total of 20?
Yeah.
Crit 20. He moves past your javelin and clocks you right on the jaw with this wrench. Because you don't have your helmet on, it's going to connect and it's going to knock you unconscious.
Okay. Well, I'm going home.
Well, I mean, you survive. So,
Yeah, obviously.
I mean,
At this point, as you're coming down the hill, you see the factory just around the corner, and alarms start going off.
oh god, I get the feeling this is going to be a regular occurrence with this guy. Let's go stop this mess.
Indeed. And both you and Miss Artley start running into the factory. As she approaches the door, she quickly reaches into her pocket, the door being locked because of lockdown. She quickly reaches in, unlocks the door, moves into a side room, and quickly pulls a switch that shuts off the factory-wide alarm. As she comes around the corner into the room in front of you, you tailing behind her, I presume?
Yeah, I'm like to the left behind her, like just with her.
Okay. A scruffy man with a couple of tools at his belt and a pad with papers on it says, "He came in just a little bit ago, asked for the pressure room. I knew he was a spy when I looked at him. He said he was working for someone else. Said he was working for you. I assumed. I wasn't sure, but he asked for Tommy by name. He's locked himself in there with him."
Okay, I'm gonna try something.
Okay.
I'm gonna say, I'm so sorry. He's a bit touched in the head. He's big and strong, so he can usually just push his way through life, but he doesn't quite understand social niceties. He probably just scared your friend.
It's like, roll a charisma check.
Plus 24.
Well, it's not that hard to scare Tommy. Well, come on then. Miss Artley, kind of flabbergasted at the situation. As you end up being escorted through the factory, you find Enegrium tied and gagged. Tommy sitting here looking extremely distressed, afraid, and stuck in a corner.
Okay, to keep up the... Wait, is that all?
Go ahead.
Okay, to keep up the whole, my friend is touched in the head, I kind of poke him on the head and say, "Don't be such an idiot." And then I walk up to Tommy. Is he standing up at the moment, or is he like sitting down somewhere?
He's kneeling in the floor, kind of scared, like he's still scared. He's afraid.
Okay, I'm gonna
paranoid.
I'm gonna kneel down in front of him and say, "I'm sorry, Tommy, was it?"
He as you kneel down, a strange face. He tries to yet again, even though you're not very tall and menacing. He still tries to scoot away from you. But the corner being his only outlet, that's as far as he can get. He's terrified of you.
I stay kneeled down and I back up and put my hands up. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to apologize. My friend, he doesn't quite understand how to talk to people. He's not right. You know?
Roll a charisma check.
18.
Your overall very, very careful and refined experience, your soothing voice, and overall very fancy, alluring demeanor, he immediately...
And my clothes.
And your clothes. He immediately actually reaches over and grabs it and just buries his head in your chest and starts crying.
I pat his head and say, "It's okay, it's okay. Come with us."
As you lift him up, he follows you, and Miss Artley, you're left tied in the hallway.
Could you untie my friend? I promise he won't hurt anybody. I'll make sure of it.
Miss Artley turns and nods the head and just tell him to come back to the laboratory when he gets his wits about him.
I want him to come with us. This is like to make it feel less like he's a spy. I'm gonna have him walk with me and Miss Hartley out.
Okay, so you're gonna wait for him?
Yeah, I'm gonna wait.
They do untie you, slap you upside the cheek, and wake you up from your unconsciousness.
I'm gonna be standing there looking down at you, so you know you're not just surrounded by the enemy.
Tommy is actually sitting behind you to avoid any direct contact with Ingram.
Are you gonna hit me or anything? Just
No. Okay. What happened?
You scared somebody again.
Oh.
Don't talk. You're in trouble. Don't you pull that with me.
No, I'm just pushing your hand away. Just whatever.
Kids. And
What?
He is older than your character.
I know, but I'm trying to play it up like he's not.
Okay.
I'm playing it up like he's a brute who just grew too fast, you know.
Okay.
And I say, come on, we'll talk in the lab.
Hey, Wave Gaming's back.
Hey, Wave Gaming.
Oh, a little one-shot tonight. Yeah, just half our crew is gone, so this is a small side adventure. All right, so you're just gonna
Yeah, I'm just gonna
get your things
while
together.
shaking my chin, rubbing it.
I turn to Tommy going, was that
you
you?
as you rub your chin, you flex your mouth, and one of your teeth, bottom teeth, just kind of folds back in underneath of your tongue, and you have to move it around, and you end up spitting out one of your teeth on the bottom side.
I'm just gonna glare at Tommy. Nice one, kid. Nice one.
Okay, well, he did what I did anyway. So, never mind.
Roll a charisma check off that.
I'm saying it really snarkily though, like still glaring at him, but like nice one.
I
Charisma,
said shut
total
up.
of 20.
he continues to cower behind Danny.
I turn to you and say, I said be quiet till we get back to the lab. You're in trouble.
As far as I know, you're not the boss of me.
Just do as I say for now.
At this point, you're all outside of the factory. Everything work seems to have gone back to normal, but Lord Morris, and the rest of his immediate businessman group are coming down the path to the factory. What is it? What happened? And Shirley says, "Oh, I sent someone to ask Tommy for a favor, and he ended up getting scared."
And I'll just like smile and just show my missing tooth.
Roll a charisma check.
Total of 10.
Morris takes a look at you. That serves you right. Maybe more encouragement not to stay in my house longer than you should.
I'm gonna spit at his feet. Excuse me?
I step in front of you and go, back off. We're in another person's house. Please.
Roll a charisma check.
Total of 27.
He almost, as if he's just about ready to murder someone, he looks at you, Danny, and he says, "If you wouldn't mind, keep your dog at bay."
I'll try.
And
I'm gonna glare at him. Watch your mouth, cur.
and
I apologize. Just ignore him. He doesn't have manners.
And at this
Lord
point,
or not.
Shirley says, "Just please, Father, he just got hit in the head with a wrench. He's
Very
not
hard.
himself right now. He doesn't mean it."
Lord or not, I don't care who you are.
I cover your mouth.
Tommy
Are you
sitting
still
here.
wearing your head thing?
Yeah, I still have the mask thing. I had to lift it up just to spit the tooth.
Okay.
And then that's
yeah,
when I lift
so-
it up again to smile.
So you can't bite me, so I'm covering your
No.
mouth.
Okay. Basically, he just walks on by. He's obviously infuriated. And he heads back down to the factory to make sure that nothing is awry. You both make it back up to the laboratory. You end up Missy sees you in your situation and gets a cloth for you to put in your mouth for the bleeding. And
Thanks, Lucy.
and you're just sitting
You're real
there.
good to us,
Your
man.
mask is kind of curled up over your nose.
Yeah.
Some of your scar is showing, but not too much.
I tell Missy, you're real good to us, ma'am.
He's like, oh, thank you, darling. It's my job. I've gotten good at it over the years.
And then I take out a coin purse that I stole from a random person.
You hand her the whole purse?
Yeah.
Okay. She looks at it, hefts it a little bit. It's like, she looks over at Miss Artley, and she's like, I like this one. And she just kind of,
And I
draws
say,
it.
partly to make up for trying to pick you up the other day.
She's like, you might win me over yet.
Yes, one down, just the dad to go. I say this in my head.
The fist bump is real, though.
Yeah, the little chibi in your head.
So you're sitting kind of upset in the corner.
Yeah, I'm throwing a temper tantrum.
Tommy sitting close to you, he's still very afraid, but you have made such an impression on him that he does not want to leave your side, pretty much.
Seeing as I'm in a lady's lab, I assume I'm gonna ask one of the ladies, do any of you have a handkerchief or something I can use?
Missy ends up reaching once again into her shirt and pulling out a very nice large handkerchief and handing it to you.
I need your tailor. And I hand it and just say, clean yourself off, lady.
And
You've had a hard day.
as you do that, she looks at you and says, I am my tailor, thank you.
I have some ideas I want to run past you.
Maybe not right now.
Okay,
She
sorry.
says.
Clean yourself up. We'd like to talk to you. Me and Artley. That's me, not the character. I have a stutter. Me, Artley, and Missy, not sulky over there.
At this point, Miss Shirley, she turns to Tommy, and she says, Tommy, I need you to tell me something. I know it's scary, and my father scares you. But have you recently worked on any special projects at all? I need to know if my father has had a watermobile custom made recently.
I pull out some
Can
of
I
the paper
chime
from
up real
earlier
quick?
and tell him he can write it down if he wants.
I'm gonna remove this thing.
Shirley, just an FYI, it's just so you know, before the little bugger got me good, I could tell he's hiding something. Seen it in his eyes.
I turn and I say, shut up! Please, we'll talk later.
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to Shirley.
Thank you, Enneagram, please. Be quiet.
Okay.
Just put the thing back in my mouth.
I take out a piece of paper and the pen from earlier, because I assume I have spare paper, because there wasn't much there. And I hand it to him. If writing it makes it easier, you can write it down. We'll even burn the paper later if you want.
Roll a charisma check.
20.
He, looking at you and the fact of the influence you've had on him and showing him that you mean him no harm, due to a number of series roles
Yes!
that have worked in your favor particularly.
I have
Oh,
suddenly
boy.
gone into...
Oh boy, I
I'm
wish
with-
I had these roles that worked in my favor.
I have backstory for this. I'm with Miss Artley this whole time, and I'm so, in the zone of trying to impress her, I have brought out my best game.
Yeah, that or it's just a thief at his best.
Yeah.
It's both.
I mean, yeah, that's both.
But he sits there and he starts to draw plans and notes for a custom designed watermobile with a very specific tire tread that is usually only ever sold overseas. And is only made by another company. And they're Shirley picks it up and looks at it and she's like, is it possible? And she turns around, goes through more of her notes, pulls out stuff out from under her drawer. My father has been in constant argument and competition for technology with another company that makes automobiles very similar to ours for years. And it has been the constant war between us that has made such amazing publicity for the automobile. It's made headlines. There have been disputes, both public and private, scandals. And she starts going through notes, old newspaper articles, and all kinds of stuff that she's piled up. It all makes sense now. My father owns both companies. Of course.
I sit down
It's
and
been one big conspiracy to further the business.
I sit down next to Tommy and say, well, shit.
One of the things about our automobile is we've never been able to quite come up with the best rubber for our wheels. It's always been very difficult, because that is the one edge that the other company has over us. While our edge has always been our engine assembly, something that Tommy always has done and has been exceptionally good at. At this, Tommy kind of gets this look on his face. He comes over to the desk, takes the paper that he has, and turns up a lamp and burns it right there. And Miss Shirley does not make a move to stop him.
I don't either. I told him we could burn it if he wanted.
He puts the rest of it in a bowl sitting there as it burns away and just washes off his hand and sits in the corner.
I slowly pick up the bolt and move it to like the middle of the floor so it don't start a fire.
It'll be fine
Okay.
wherever it is.
Just thinking a desk full of paper.
And the fact alone, she's sitting there, she's like, the fact alone that it was made here. Tommy, were you part of the assembly for this vehicle? Was it made here in Father's factory? And Tommy looks up at her and nods his head. There's only one person in the family he would ever custom assemble a automobile for.
Who?
My sister, Mary.
Double shit.
She always has to have everything specific, every stitch in her clothing, and she throws papers across the room. Everything has to be special. Everything has to be perfect. It's my hobbies, my deduction, my science, my chemistry, everything that keeps me sane amongst her constant control and power that she constantly tries to make the world her own around her.
Seeing that she's visibly upset, I go over and I put my hand on her shoulder very lightly and say, getting angry isn't going to get us anywhere. Let's calm down.
Oh, don't... She brushes your hand aside. I'm not angry.
You could have fooled me.
Don't you see?
I'd be pissed.
A automobile with a tire tread that is not used by our company,
Yeah, I get it.
but was assembled in our factory, killed a man last night. The only person that could have been driving that automobile is my sister. Did you find anything else in the desk drawer? Any other papers that might help you? Help us. Any information?
Have I given her everything?
You have.
Okay. No. But if we find another break in your father's schedule, I can go and check again. I was looking for car stuff.
Looking for cost.
Maybe we could check your sister's room.
Not her room. Her cave.
Yeah.
Her cave.
Oh, I
And
was
she
gonna say garage.
quickly as you say the word garage, she's like, yes, her garage.
I love
Surely
that.
she would only have one place to keep her own private watermobile.
Like that, both of us point the finger up and go, garage!
Any input from you?
I'm still massaging my jaw. honestly.
As you're doing that, Missy comes over and pours you a cup of tea. And
You should probably take that out of your mouth, otherwise it'll get dry socket.
the bleeding has stopped by now.
Yeah. Is there anywhere I could throw this?
Throw it with the paper in the bowl. We'll burn that later.
Thanks for the cup of tea, Missy.
It kind of burns your gum, the nerve to your
Yeah.
tooth. Your tooth is literally being cut in half, and the
Oh,
nerve is
God.
exposed.
How are
The-
you not screaming?
the-
I'm used to pain, just wincing while drinking the tea.
roll just a regular charisma check for me.
Just whether Missy found this
7.
attractive.
7. You wince past the pain, but part of your sadistic side leans slightly masochistic at its greatest form,
Do I just smile
and
afterwards?
you just kind of enjoy the pain a little bit.
I haven't felt like this in a while.
Do you need a room?
At this point, Shirley, she puts on her cloak, and she goes over to the wall where another one of those communication devices is. She winds it up, and she says, yes, Inspector Strahd, at the office, please.
I walk up, and while she's waiting, is there like a delay where she's not on, like where there's a connection?
Slight, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say, don't give away too much. We don't want to get caught.
She's like, I can trust Inspector Strahd. He's quite a idiot.
Just be careful.
Oh, I'm fine. And she, yes, Inspector, I know you don't... Yeah, I know. Listen, it's my father. Yes, I have reason to believe that my father is covering up for my sister. I think my sister's automobile is the one who ran over that poor man last night. I have a location, the waterfall south of our house. My sister and I used to keep things there, treasures. I haven't been there in quite a long time, but I have a feeling the automobile we should be looking for may be there. Yes, meet me there in 20 minutes. Thank you.
By yourself, or with a very small crew.
She's hung up the phone already.
Damn it.
She's like, come with me. And she throws on her... everyone pretty much rushes to the front of the house.
Do we still have Tommy with us?
Tommy stays behind.
Okay, before we leave, I say, Tommy, just stay here. Watch the watch. This is me, not the thing. watch the fort. Not good with this. Stay. Sorry.
Charisma
Be
check.
good.
Charisma check.
Nat 20.
He looks at you and he looks around, finds a butter knife, and he sits down in the chair like he's guarding the room with his life.
No. I take the knife away. Just don't say anything don't gesture anything we've done.
He motions to you like, it's me. What do you
It's
expect?
It's tough being a parent. And I walk out the room.
So as
Because
you...
I have established I am the mother of the group.
You're gonna have to contend with Samantha for that one.
That is true.
No, this group.
Okay. Well, you end up moving to the front of the house. As you do, Morris has come back in through the front door, sees you all leaving, and he's like, "Oh, are you actually leaving now?"
Well, if we're gonna be leaving, I want to go back to my room and get my change to my actual armor stuff.
You're gonna change into your armor.
Yeah.
You can do that on your way out. We'll say that you had.
Yeah, we just grab our stuff. Yeah, we might be back for dinner, though.
Don't count on it. Just Go find your own. In fact, here. He reaches in his pocket and just pulls out a small purse and chucks it at you. It's like, find dinner somewhere else, away from me.
Okay, I stuff it into a pocket in my robe.
Oh, good riddance.
You know, I tried my best, man. I say this to you, not to him. I tried my best, man. I just can't get the father on my side.
Good riddance to him. He's an ass.
At least I know.
As you all leave
I
the
want to
house,
say that out loud here. Like, make sure Morris hears it.
I waited until he's out of hearing range, so you're gonna have to yell.
It's like, good riddance. Lord Morris is an ass.
as you do that, the door is still open, and you hear shouting from the inside. Barrett, make sure that man is not allowed on my property ever again once he leaves.
The
And
tall
if he
one.
is, shoot him to kill.
I just look over. I just turn around.
And the door slams
Oh, okay.
in your face.
Well, before he does that, I want to just turn around and just do this.
You basically, flip off the front door.
Oh. I was like, well, shit.
You know, in the next while, if we stay together, I'm gonna have to help you learn to control your temper. Because you do seem more temperamental now than in the regular game, so obviously
it's because I'm jobless. I'm hungry. I mean, I have eaten, but I'm still restless and jobless.
I take the purse of money out and I give it to you. Just calm down.
It's like, here, you're not yourself. Eat a Snickers.
You're not yourself. Take some money.
At this point,
Thank you, Danny.
you end up walking across the fields. It takes you a little while.
I
But-
want to establish on the way to the house, I have picked a few pockets and I have a sizable amount of money. That's why I was able to give her.
You needed
Ah.
you needed to declare those upon the opportunities.
Okay.
You can't just up and say, "Hey DM, I've been picking pockets this whole time."
Oh, okay. I just thought it was
he
established
never
that I
gave
did that.
me
Never
money.
mind.
No.
I'm
I still
angry.
have that money. He tipped me, and I basically gave.
The 3 I gave you at the
actually-
beginning of the campaign were, a gratis thing for your character's backstory. The 3 that the inspector took from you
Okay, yeah.
upon being arrested.
So I basically gave her a chunk of money, and then you the tip that he gave me.
Let Lord Varys, I don't want his blood money.
Okay.
I like to earn it myself.
All right.
Okay. Sorry.
That being said, you move through
I know that now.
some woods, thick underbrush, the canopy of leaves around you, shadows, bare ground through these woods that has hardly anything but leaves and dirt scattered about because of the constant canopy of leaves. As you hear the roar of water and you see somewhat a wide path cutting through this wood. It looks like carts have been driven through here, and you come upon a waterfall. But the waterfall has 2 stages, one where the water's falling off, and underneath you can see the path actually goes underneath the waterfall. As you walk down this path, a carriage approaches, and Inspector Strahd is standing here. He gets off the carriage. A couple of the constables,
I step in front of the group and say, "Strati!"
and he's like, "Why are you still here?
You know you love me.
I would love to put you in prison, is what I love.
You've done that 3 times.
Yes, and I'd make it a 4th if it made me happy, and it would.
And you're the one to tell me to keep it down.
Just give me a chance,
Hey.
boy. Give me a chance." Anyway, Miss Shirley, what is it
Cannot
you
fight
need?
that point.
What is it you need? And she turns to him. Underneath this waterfall, I believe we will find the culprit to our mystery. As she walks forward, Strahd, the other constables, are you following?
Yeah.
I'm with her.
You're following. All of you end up walking underneath this waterfall, and there is a cave underneath the waterfall. The stone here seems untouched by the water's erosion over
As we
time.
walk out of the water,
Justin, like, after that, I'm
Flip
just
off the
gonna pull
water.
out my spear just in case we do have a confrontation of some sort.
Okay. Couple of the constables end up having lanterns. They One of them carries one on his belt, and he just lights it up. And in the room, you find a 6-wheeled watermobile. The front of the watermobile has a massive dent and blood and hair smeared across the front of it.
Well, don't take a genius to see what happened here.
The as you say that, Miss Shirley looks up to it and says, like, "You're right. And there's no way this could have gotten back onto the property last night without my father knowing. There's not a butler in this house, not a servant in the entire household who would have ever let this past father's knowledge. He had to have known, and he's covering for her." And she turns to Inspector Strahd and says, "Sir, there is a dinner tonight. I would like to invite you to it, possibly. And I know you two aren't invited."
He's not invited. I've been officially uninvited.
I think
neutral
not.
here.
Could you possibly stay here in the cave and guard the evidence with one or two of these constables? Inspector Strahd, if you would come to dinner with us, at my invitation, of course, to confront my father.
He only suggested I don't go.
I'm gonna get shot if I go.
I know, I'm saying he can't go. I haven't been threatened yet.
Roll a charisma check against Miss Shirley.
16.
Total 16?
Yeah.
She looks at you and says, "No. Stay here. You two are together. It's made obvious already in the amount of time that I've been with you. You both balance each other out. Stay here. Guard the vehicle. Should someone come and try to take it, stop them at all costs."
I'm going to request that if she has that magnifying glass, I want to investigate things around. I promise to give it back.
She does have it. She pulls it out. She's like, "Promise me you won't drop it. It's very fragile."
I promise.
She hands it to you.
And I surreptitiously hand her back her lockpicks, because I don't have lockpicks in the future.
She thanks you. "Thank you for those. Those are hard to come by." And she slides them back into her cloak where the magnifying glass is, or was. And she and Inspector Strahd both end up talking and under hushed breaths discussing their plan, and leave you in the cave.
Do I hear any of it?
Go ahead and roll observance.
Oh, that's a nope. That's a total of
Nope.
Do I?
8. Total of 8.
Total of 15.
15. As they're walking away, you're able to catch just a little bit. "Okay, Strahd, this is what I think we'll do. We are going to have you over, and I will need you to have a little speech about how you actually come to think that my detective services are quite useful, actually." And he's like, "I don't think you're going." And the argument pretty much goes out of your earshot at that point. Miss Shirley obviously using every moment an opportunity to leverage her way into Strahd's
I'm going to
better
try to give
circle.
one bit of advice to Strahd. Don't drink or eat anything at this.
He's out of your earshot at this point. You really couldn't say anything. You could yell it, but the waterfall would deafen it.
Okay. Well, he's gonna die. I say this out loud to you.
Well, aren't you the positive one?
At this
I'm
time,
charming, not optimistic.
at this time, you sit down, guarding the watermobile.
I proceed to look around and see
How
if
many
there's
more constables
anything.
are with us, helping us guard?
There are 2.
2 more.
There's Harold, and there's Jeffrey.
Oh, Harold
Oh,
and Jeffrey.
before I go to investigate, I want to go greet them because I know them both.
Harold is not at all interested in talking to you, but Jeffrey's like, "Oh yes, oh." I
How
forgot-
was that China set?
It was lovely, and would you know it? It actually has been used for centuries, apparently, to brew the same type of tea, and enhances the flavor. She said it's wonderful. I can't wait till try it tonight.
Make sure you don't clean it with too hot water; it'll ruin the flavor.
Good point. And, you know, you both end up geeking out over T-facts for a little
Okay.
while.
Yeah,
And after
I'm just
that,
gonna
I
go
proceed
over
to
Harold.
investigate.
I'm just gonna go over to Harold. You have to work with this guy?
Aye.
Feel your pain. Look who I'm stuck with in a group.
Aye.
I.
Two peas in a pod, aren't you? Anyway, after I'm done geeking out with Jeffrey, I want to investigate the area and the car to see if there's anything that might be of use
Okay.
to the investigation or just to me in general.
Roll on observation.
20.
After this, I'm gonna join you because my stunning conversation with Harold.
I thought it went rather well for you. You hit me, buddy. There was no screaming, and you stayed in the cave.
As he walks up, he expresses that, and that's the conversation that ensued.
You can't fight facts.
I'm just gonna kneel down next to you. Alright, what have you seen so far?
What have I seen so far?
You ended up finding some books, pretty much log books. It appears that some interesting information for Mary's financial dealings. She keeps some of her own separate. And it appears that possibly it's not the father who had the car built, but it was Mary that possibly might have had the car built.
Okay, I approach Jeffrey, and I ask, can you get Harold to have a conversation with me? I promise not to bring up the thing with the ring, or the time I stole his hat, or the time I stole his dinner, or the time... And I just go on for another minute of things I did to Harold.
I'm just gonna put my hand in your face and be like, I think he gets it.
Yeah, I just go on for about a minute saying what I've done to Harold to make him hate me.
Roll charisma with with disadvantage.
Okay. I thought he liked me.
Well, he's gonna have to try to convince. You're basically talking
15.
to Jeffrey to convince Harold to talk to you.
I got 15.
15 with disadvantage?
Yeah, I got really high charisma.
Holy cow! Okay. He's
Kinda doused all his extra points.
I know. I did it like I play video games. Charisma and stealth.
Jeffrey hollers over to Harold. Harold, come over here. Come on. It's obvious this man isn't as bad as, you know, all his troubles that he gets himself into, the pranks he's pulled. He's still a young chap, just trying to have fun.
I follow the thieves' rules. I mean, I'm not a thief.
I just look over.
As you do that,
You're doing really well today.
as you do that,
Shit.
as
Right.
you in particular do that, Harold looks at you, Negrim, and smiles just for the first time, for the first time since you guys have seen and been in and out of the local office behind bars. This is the first time you've seen Harold smile.
I get it. I imagine like those pictures where you see the older and younger versions of themselves meeting, where the younger versions and the older are basically the same people.
You're maybe the Abbott and Costello to their Laurel and Hardy, but that's about it.
I mean, attitude-wise. Anyway,
But this is pretty much how you spend the next
and
couple
I go
hours.
over the facts, and we
It
chase.
looks...
I just want somebody to know in case I'm not able to give this information. Then I hand over the logbooks with the
Okay.
pertinent information.
Alright, so they have it as evidence. Jeepers criminy. Oh. It's about this time, about three and a half hours later. It's been quite a long wait, but you've been poring over notes and whatnot, sharing things with Harold and Jeffrey. You hear shouting in the distance. And you hear...
As soon as I
Running.
hear shouting, I say to Jeffrey, I hand him, make sure he has all the notes, and say, go hide.
Okay.
Because we might all die. Or, be knocked out.
Okay. He successfully jumps into the shadows and conceals himself with, what evidence you gave him in the shadows. And, she, basically, he, after a little while, you hear the shouting, two sets of very heavy boot prints or footsteps come running into the darkness. It is now getting into twilight in the evening.
Alright, I'm gonna pull out my spear.
I pull out a throwing knife and tie it to my gauntlet.
Okay.
Pull out my spear and get it ready. I never clarified this, but do I also have my spiked shield with me on this adventure or no?
No.
Do
I'm
I
not
have my
carrying-
poison
just a
knives,
shield.
or do I have
I mean,
my
it's just
poison
a
knives
spear.
yet, or is it just regular knives?
You have the poison knives, yes.
Okay.
It's just a lance. I pull it out. I'm ready.
The poison knives are kind of a utility for thieves and rogues.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have much going for you for actual damage output, so you wait on poison to take effect. As you do, as you hear these footsteps, what are you going to do besides that? Anything?
I'm gonna stealth.
Okay,
I'm
you're
gonna
gonna hide.
try and hide.
Okay, you disappear into the shadows.
I'm gonna see whatever.
Go ahead and roll for the stealth on that one.
A nat 20.
Okay. In the moment of you hearing
I
these
just literally
blueprints, you
disappeared.
pull out your spear and you look. Where the heck did he go? He was literally standing 2 feet next to you.
What's
I'm
the second
on your
guy?
back like a
What's
backpack.
Harold doing?
Harold?
Yeah.
Harold is pulling up his. He closes up his lantern and kind of hides behind the automobile,
Hides on an automobile.
the automobile.
I hope my
Okay.
assumption that he's the
Um,
fighter of the two is correct. Just from attitude.
I'm gonna join Harold and hide behind. Is there enough room for the two of us to hide behind it?
Yes,
Okay.
Watermobile is. You remember Cruella DeVille's car, or
Oh, yeah.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Imagine a bigger, beefier version of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Ooh.
That's what the Watermobiles
Yeah,
are look
I'm
like
hiding
with 6
with Harold.
wheels.
I'm hiding with Harold.
I'm hiding near the entrance so that they'll run past me.
Okay.
I'm hiding with Harold, readying my spear.
All right. Roll a stealth check.
Total of 13.
Okay.
I like how I'm getting all my good rolls the night I'm guaranteed to live.
Things can change.
I'm
Don't tempt
actually a
me.
ghost the
Don't
entire
tempt me. No, but as you wait in silence, you hear Morris and Miss Mary's voices, and she's coming around the corner. But Father, no, I don't want to leave. No, it's my decision. It was my fault for allowing you to go ahead and go behind my back, and I wasn't paying attention all this time. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have, and I'm
This is
very
Mary?
sorry. No, it's Morris and Mary.
I mean, that's what I meant. It wasn't Shirley, it's Mary.
It's not Shirley. It's
Okay.
Mary. It's like I'm sorry, Father. It's all my fault. It's my fault for not disciplining you better. I'm sorry. But now I've got myself into this. Take a mobile. Get out of here. Don't come back. Whatever you do. And at this point, Morris pulls out a rapier and stands at the entrance to the cave. And Mary runs over to her watermobile and pulls a couple of levers, reaches down and starts cranking in it, and starts up. You can hear the small little steam pops of the machine starting to whir as she pulls a lever and starts to drive out of the cave. The road that enters the
Mal,
cave.
How loud is it when it's starting?
It's pretty loud.
Okay, I'm going to run
Wait.
as quietly as I can and pull her out of the car and cover her mouth.
Okay. Roll a stealth check first.
Oh, I was gonna try to do something like that, but okay.
Kill her. I got a 11.
Okay. It succeeds.
I just like kind of
Dang.
stumbled halfway through.
I should have given you advantage on that because if it was dark, but still, yeah.
And loud. The loud was what I was paying attention to.
But yeah, you run over. I need you to roll a melee precision for the tackle.
Melee precision. 10.
10. You said you were going to do the same thing, so
Yeah, I was
go
gonna do
ahead
the
and
same- 'cause,
roll
like,
it.
So like, where is she at exactly?
She's
Positioned
in
from,
the
like-
driver's seat.
Okay, so I'm assuming that Harold and I are like literally below her, kind of, sort of.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna do the same thing. Basically, my
And since you're closer, I will give you a run at it before he does. Before I give
Alright.
you the final situation.
like my lance grapple technique or whatever that I have.
Mhm.
I was gonna use that, just kind of like hold her.
Okay.
Since he's like basically kind of covering her mouth or whatever.
Go ahead and take advantage on this one because you are right there on the attack, and you don't have to run in stealth or anything like that first.
Alright.
Advantage, you rolled a 10 too.
Oh yeah. Where is
You
it?
just had it. That one.
Here.
And this is melee precision.
Melee precision. Where's my melee precision? Oh.
You got really high.
Yeah, I got a really high. Okay.
You got 30.
Yeah, 30.
Is that extra 5 from your staff, or what is that extra 5 from?
Yeah, that's from my staff.
The staff does not
Oh.
give you the buff, so
25.
take the 5 off of that. 25?
Yeah, 25.
Okay. Alright, that is still enough. As she jumps into the passenger seat, whirs it up, and she starts to drive away. She actually starts the thing moving forward, and at that moment, you reach out, grab her with the spear, and you don't make a sound over the engine as the car spurs and drives forward out of the cave and drives off the edge of the cliff and crashes into the waterfall below as Morris, he shouts, "Mary!" and he rushes to the edge of the waterfall. Just then, light shine from the side. "Morris! The game's up! We've got you!"
I want to mockingly yell at Morris. You're right, Morris. It is all your fault.
As he turns,
And I'm holding Mary.
Okay, now I let go because there's no need to keep her quiet.
as you never actually got it.
Oh, okay. I thought I was covering her mouth while he did the thing.
Oh, I thought that's what was going on. But okay, yeah, I will. I know, I beat you to it, that's why.
Yeah, I thought you got her, and then I covered her mouth.
Yep.
But I guess I missed with my thing.
But she can't really do anything right now because
Yeah.
her airway's cut off.
Okay.
Oh, wait, it was a success. Yay!
Yeah, it was a success. And you didn't even have to use the point for it because you already had advantage.
Oh, that's true.
So, but
no, but you said if I use, you said though, I think if we were successful with it 5 times in a row,
you can become a skill and it'll be rolled with advantage all the time.
So that was the 3rd tally mark that I was using on it.
Yep.
So two
So
more,
two
and it's a
more.
skill.
Yep. All right. So at that point, she's sitting there. She can't call out or anything, and you hear Shirley. "We know, Father. We found records. We found all of the evidence. You've been covering up for Mary."
And we found more from Mary in this cave.
And as he turns, seeing you call from the shadows, he can't quite see what's going on.
I'm stepping out in the open.
You
now.
step out.
Yeah.
It's moonlight now,
Oh,
shining
yeah.
through the waterfall.
And I look
was
very
out in the
hero-
open when I was mocking Morris. So did he see me at all with Mary?
He
Well,
does not
I
see you
have
with
like
Mary.
a natural cloud of smoke around me right now because
Oh.
I rolled a nat 20.
Because I wanted to mock him while holding it. Like I wanted him to see that I held Mary hostage.
Are you gonna step into the light?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you move forward, he sees you holding Mary.
And that's when I yell at him. You're right, Morris. It is all your fault.
And then I'm like a few feet away because I didn't make it to catch her, and I say, what I say, and we found even more evidence from Mary in this cave.
It's super anime right now.
Yeah, we got like
The
moonlight
shadow.
shining down. I'm wearing my purple vest and everything. I'm just like, and I look actually pretty cool in my opinion. I got like the sleeves rolled up and a vest on and everything.
As he's standing there, his rapier moves down to his side. He's not quite sure. He's got flashlights. He can't, even though you've stepped into the moonlight, Harold has pulled up his light and he's now shining it at Morris, and he still can't quite see very well. Chances of him actually being able to see either of you more than just relatively your shadowy positions, that's about it. He's standing there and he's like, looks it back over the waterfall. He's like, "You'll never take me alive."
And I try to say, surrender, don't die. Surrender is better than death.
And just that in that moment, Strahd moves up. He's like, "Strahd, drop that weapon. Drop it now. And come peaceably." Strahd moves closer, pulling out a rapier of his own.
Can I try to convince him to surrender?
Go ahead and roll I would say with disadvantage, since he's got multiple antagonists right now.
No, it's the D8.
Because it's really hard to
Where is
disperse a tight situation with multiple people yelling.
Oh, that's right. That'll work. Okay, 9, 5, plus charisma of 11. So 15.
He, standing there, throws his rapier to the side. Very well. But know this. It was all my doing. Everything.
We heard you, Morris.
So I don't know about that. She was the one driving. She's just as guilty as you.
No! I was driving.
Bullshit. Morris.
We heard you
know
talking
it.
with only her
There's
in the room.
4 of us who heard you.
And then I wave him over. And we have a shit ton of evidence that she was the one responsible. It's
just
her
as
car,
guilty as-
she's the driver, and you were trying to send her
In
away.
the midst of all this talking, both of you talking over top of each other, Strahd, enough! Take him away.
Sorry, sir.
Harold comes up, puts manacles on Morris, and moves in behind him, starts leading away, and says, "You're going away for a long time, Morris. A long time."
Wait, Harold did that?
Yeah.
Aye.
As you do that, he's, "Oi!"
And I just shout, and the time I spit in your food because you hit me on the head with a pipe.
Oi.
I apologize for that.
And he looks back at you. Oi! And he walks away. And Harold, Jeffrey comes up next to you, leans on your shoulder.
Whose
You know,
shoulder,
I think
mine or
yours.
Okay, mine.
And he's like,
Ah. Wait, how big is Jeffrey?
Jeffrey's taller than you.
Oh
He
yeah,
can
I'm
actually-
definitely like.
He's like, you know what? I think you might get to him eventually.
You think?
Yeah. Oh,
Good.
sorry.
Yeah, you're
Sorry.
big. I roll my shoulder.
I'm still holding Mary.
Jeffrey, at this point, you realize that Mary is turning blue in the face as she falls down to the floor.
I say, hey Jeff, go handcuff her.
Jeffrey, standing there, that was exactly what he intended to do. He puts manacles on her.
Well, like, since she fell down, I'm just gonna squat next to her and say, "Have fun."
As he goes to put manticores on him, there's a boom cloud of smoke that just spreads out all over the place.
Sorry.
You standing there just automatically
It's
apologize,
all,
thinking
it's all
that
that
it was
prison
you.
food.
As Mary runs to the edge of the waterfall and shouts at Shirley, "He always loved you more, didn't
Okay,
he?
I'm going to. Oh wait. Can I do
Always
something when
loved
she
you
does
more. Know this, Sherry. You were never really my sister."
this?
And jumps off the edge
Can
of
I
the
do something
waterfall.
while she does all this?
It's too fast.
I have my knife out. I was gonna like do this and then throw it and try to wrap around her.
You could have. It's not a grappling knife. You would
Well, I
have
was
hit
using
her.
it more like a weight, so I could hit her with the rope, and then it would just wrap around her.
At the length that it was, being that it's not a specific head meant to. I've actually worked with some things like this before.
I know, so
it
have
doesn't
I.
quite
I'm just
work.
like
it doesn't
only
quite
like
work.
you do it just right.
You would have to have rolled a.
Let me
If
just
you
try.
roll a crit 20, I'll give it to you. Okay, yeah. No. As you swing, you throw it through the air,
and it just whizzes by her.
and she just knocks it aside, and she's like, "This isn't the last you've heard of Mary Hartley." And she jumps backwards off the waterfall and into the darkness.
Well, that's unfortunate.
I feel like I saved the wrong one here.
Hours have passed. The dinner party that was the Artleys has ended. People have dispersed and gone home. there is quite a bit of
Kerfuffle.
kerfuffle going on. Lot of
Rich person
scandal.
word for
Lot of
trouble.
scandal. Tommy shows up in the midst of it. Walks up to Miss Sherry and leans down, tears running down his face. Miss Shirley, I'm sorry. He made me do it.
I knew the little brat can talk.
I smack you on the back of the head and say, "Shut up."
He doesn't really pay attention. He's too immersed in the
Are
moment.
we there? Like
You
with
are
him?
there.
Okay.
In the distance, you can barely hear what's going on.
Okay,
There's
then
a
I
lot-
proceed to walk closer because I want to see what's going on.
You can still hear within earshot. You're
Oh,
still
I'm not
within
like too far away.
No, you're
Okay,
you're,
then
you're,
I keep a
you're close
respectful
enough.
distance.
And he says, Morse isn't your father. A man by the name of Jonathan Combes is. And when your father found out, he had both of them locked away. I was one of the people that he made do it. Both your mother and your father died locked away. I'm very sorry. And at this moment, Shirley leaves.
I
And
walk up to Tommy. Sorry.
okay.
I say, "Is that true?"
He
Hoping that my relationship with him is good enough to get the full truth out of him. Is there anything else that you're leaving out here?
no.
And
That's
I'm gonna be standing right behind you, but
And
I'm not
then-
gonna do anything. I'll still keep a distance, just observing and glaring at Tommy this entire time since I knew he was lying.
I want to see if Missy followed her.
Missy has not been in the room.
Okay, then I'm gonna follow her.
Okay.
Just try and catch up, see if she's all right.
You
Well,
go.
not all right,
you
obviously.
go to her laboratory. You can tell that she's headed towards her laboratory, but by the time you get to the door, it's locked. You can't enter.
Is there's a ventilation system in the lab? I'm guessing, right?
There
There-
may be.
There has to be because of the chemicals she works with.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go into the closest room that is unlocked, get into the vent system, and go into the room because I gave her back her lockpicks.
Okay.
What do I roll for that? Or
You wouldn't need to roll for that per se, seeing as you've already been through the ventilation system before. It takes you quite a while to do so. But as you get to the ventilation to her room, to her laboratory, you notice before you even crawl into the vent from the side room that she's blocked it off, already anticipating that you would try to enter that way.
can I see what's blocking it?
And you can look, but it looks like it's been blocked by some kind of large furniture.
Okay. Is it wood? It was my thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the butt of my knife because I assume I'm still dressed as I was before. Am I, or have I gotten changed?
Yeah, you're still dressed the way you were before.
Okay, I take the butt of my my throwing knife, and I tap it against it and say, I just want to talk to you. Are you okay? Should I roll charisma?
Nothing. You can hear nothing from the other side.
Okay. I'm gonna try again. Please. I thought we were friends. Please.
From inside the room, you hear Missy's voice. Please leave the vents alone. Miss Shirley needs her peace and quiet, please. Just go.
Okay, as long as she's not alone, it's okay. I'm sorry I couldn't save that. And then I leave. And then I go outside the room and leave.
Wait, have I been left alone with Tommy this entire time?
I think you're.
You have, actually.
Oh, I thought you followed me.
No.
I assumed you were standing there waiting for me to get out of the vents.
Can we have this? Is like so? Me and Tommy, you little shit. I knew you could talk. Can't believe you lied to Miss Hartley like that. You're just as guilty as murderers. Mr. Morris is.
He sits down on he kind of misses the chair and sits down on the floor, and he's like, I know it, but you haven't seen Morris when he gets angry. Not
I was gonna
Not
do
like
this.
I have.
When he was defeated, though, so shouldn't that be anything to consider?
Before I start walking back, I do want to do one more thing outside the room. Or do you want to finish that scene or what?
Thank you.
Okay.
Tommy looks up at you and he's like, it's not over yet. You don't understand.
I'm gonna pull up the chair. Sit down. What do you mean it's not over?
He climbs up, looks deep into your eyes and says, he's got my mother.
So you tell the guy that hit you and not... You tell the guy that hit you and not the guy who saved you.
At this point,
I'm just dumbfounded right now.
Inspector Strahd comes up to you and he starts questioning you, battering about various questions, and he's going to basically busy you with all your point of view from everything that has occurred since you left the office the day
Can
before.
I basically tell him? Hold on. Can I talk to Tommy first?
Roll a charisma check.
Total of 20.
He's like, can't we have one of my inspectors talk to him? I'm sure they can get out just as much out of him as you can.
He needs to talk to me personally. Believe me, Inspector.
Very well.
Isn't he a known mute? Or is that just in the factory?
It's in the factory.
Ah, okay.
Alright, go up to Tommy again. Do you know where your mother is?
No.
Any idea where he might keep information like that?
No.
How long has this been? Since he's kept your mother and basically enslaved you?
14 years? I don't even know if she's still alive. All I can do is hope and pray.
I'll let you in on a little secret, Tommy. I lost my parents when I was 5. And I'm sorry about the little altercation that we had earlier. I only did it because I knew you were holding back from his holiday, but that being said, I swear, I will help you find your mother.
Thank you, sir.
Alright, Inspector. What do you want to ask me?
As he drags you away to ask you various questions, and the night is spent in constant interrogations, questions, and
Before I walk away from the room, I still have the paper and the pen, and I take the purple hat. I don't keep the purple hat. I'm just gonna assume I stole the clothes while in the 7 months, because I put it outside the door and I write a little note saying, "New clothes always make me feel better. I hope we can still be friends. I'm sorry, Danny." And then leave it outside the door and walk back.
okay.
I do like to Shirley and then
Mhm.
all that, and I go back to the room.
Talking to the constable, I do want to tell him, I don't want to tell him exactly about, actually no, it's in my justice thing, I kind of have to anyways. I tell him about, like, the information that Tommy's been withholding from the family or whatever until this moment. And basically how he helped lock up Miss Hartley's parents. But it was only because he was forced to by Morris, who basically kidnapped his mother and enslaved them for all that time. And then how he kind of said, you know, this is just the start of it all. I was like, I think we might need to do a thorough investigation into all his assets and his properties. We gotta find out what else he's planning, because this might just be the start of it all.
Well, he is in prison now. I have confirmed from over the wire that he has been put in prison, and he will be tried shortly within a few days. And I am positive we have enough evidence here, from the papers that you've gathered, and what I have here, to put him away for a very long time. Plus, plenty of ear witnesses. That being said, the interesting part is going to be the fact that this is all going to be left to Miss Shirley. She's going to become quite a wealthy woman overnight, and she's going to be that much more of a pain to deal with when it comes to her hobbies.
I just like absent-mindedly, I say, maybe I'll actually have a noble on my side for once.
Well, if she does end up liking you, she'll be a very wealthy one.
I beam because I completely misunderstood what you say it mean by liking.
But that being said, like,
Unless you did mean that. Okay.
You see, I know Tommy was involved, and he's considered guilty by law, but
Oh, on the contrary. Being that he was employed by Morrison, according to our laws, even though you are not here from Mist London, he is actually required to obey his master, and he is, under the law, completely abstained from all guilt.
that's what I was just about to say. Thank you, because I promised the boy I want to find his mother.
How old is Tommy?
Tommy looks like he could be in his mid-20s.
Okay. So he was a kid when all this went down.
A brilliant kid, but yes, a kid.
I mean, just like, he didn't have any power, so that was my
He was 14 years, mid-20s. Yeah, he was young teen years, basically. At this point, the butlers and maids end up approaching you after the evening winds down and actually offer you rooms to stay in the house over the night. It's very late, and seeing that the house is under new management, and the fact that the maids and the butlers and all have been talking behind the scenes about your wonderfully strange escapades and nearly breaking a vase, they've actually gone quite fancy to you. They actually you come to find out through talking to that particular maid that when you caught the vase, she actually had about 12 hours left before she won the pot for how many vases they could feasibly break that month without getting in trouble. And she won quite a bit of money off of that.
I ask, can I have, like, wait, does she specify what quite a bit is?
As you lean over, what is quite a bit? And she just gives you a coy smile, turns and walks away with a little bit of that, sassy swing to her hips as she just walks away.
Damn it.
I'm just gonna go to him. If things don't work out with Miss Artie, I'd take it if I were you.
No, I think I can make this work.
The next morning dawns, and you each have a wire. The inspector has requested that Enigrium and his friend come to the office.
alright.
Who
And his friend.
requested this?
Inspector Strahd.
I like how he said your friend. He doesn't want to refer you by
Okay, is this like a messenger?
It's a wire. This is world's best version of a telephone.
Okay, so he's talking to us.
It's
It's a
delivered
message.
as a message on paper
Oh,
when someone
okay.
else receives
I pick
the
up
call.
the paper and I say, I'm gonna get him to say my name one day.
Come on, let's go.
Everybody will like me.
As we're leaving, by the way, did you ever get to check up on Miss Artie? See how she's doing?
You have not seen Miss Artie since the night before.
I'm gonna how long do we have before we have to be back at the office, or is there no time?
The office specified post haste.
Okay, well, post haste means as quick as possible, which means I can do something important. I'm gonna go to the lab and knock on the door.
As you do so, you knock. There is no answer.
I look down. Is the hat still there?
No.
I sigh, and I go. I give it my best shot, and I go to leave.
Okay. One of the butlers ends up bringing around a watermobile, and you get to ride into town to the office in style.
He's like, oh, how nice. These vehicles are actually quite nice when you're not running over someone.
That was dark.
Upon arrival, you get out, walk into the office, and Professor Strahd is sitting there at the desk, and he says, "If I remember correctly, Inigrium, you said you were looking for work."
That's correct, sir.
He holds up a paper on his desk. "This one's a bit out of our jurisdiction. There's been a theft. One of the other local families, in amidst the tussle of last night, had a very precious object stolen from them. He escaped out of our jurisdiction across seas just last night, headed for the mainland. Go."
Alright. Any more information?
He hasn't handed you the paper yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I have a question. What is the uniform of these officers?
Imagine a U.S. Northern civil uniform,
Okay,
Civil
they've
War
got-
uniform,
So they've got a like.
without the hat.
Nah.
Without the hat.
Without the hat.
As far as the hat goes, they do not wear a hat.
Not even the officer, the head officer.
No.
Okay. I'm-
Professor Strahd sits there at his desk.
So, family heirloom gets stolen. Thief escapes from jurisdiction of you guys, heading to the mainland.
It is against my typical beliefs to hire a vigilante for money. But this one's kind of close to home. It was my mother's heirloom that was stolen.
So is yours.
If you bring him back alive, I will be happy. If you can bring back the item and his head, in whatever condition you can. Either way, 20,000 pieces of gold. And a personal license to operate as a vigilante bounty hunter here in Misty Landon.
I want to roll for observation to see if there's anything worth value in the office.
Go ahead and roll observation.
Oof.
1.
You, at the very mention of 20,000 gold, you're sitting there drooling, imagining yourself sitting back in some jacuzzi with a couple girls on your side, or better yet,
Just
Miss
Artie.
Shirley on your side, you know, in a bikini, you know,
Even
living
though
up the
bikinis probably
life
don't exist.
while the butler who drove you here is serving you drinks.
Do I see him drooling?
No.
Okay.
He's behind you.
Oh, okay.
Is there a nameplate on the desk? I have a plan.
There is.
Okay. I want to steal the nameplate while they're talking.
Roll an investigation, or roll a sleight of hand check.
That's stealth, right?
Yep, stealth.
9, that'll be 23.
As you lean over the desk, 20,000, and you just kind of knock it into your open hand underneath, and you just slide it into your pants. He doesn't even notice at all that his nameplate is missing off his desk.
Okay. That'll come up later. I
Say
want to
20.
do.
I would say, God damn, Danny, stop drooling all over the place. And I like bop your mouth open.
With that much money, I can definitely impress Shirley.
Anyways, back to you, officer.
He hands you the paper. The man's name is Sengar the Black.
God the Black.
He was seen briefly.
I take it to be a description in the bounty as well.
Yes, short, almost called a dwarf sometimes, very robust. Typically sticks in the outer wastes. Does have some good sales connections, though. We've had to use him for underground work a couple of times, and that's why he's on the run.
Very well. Stick my eye. Got yourselves a deal.
Bring him back, if you can.
Alright, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I will.
slip out and wait at the front door outside the place.
As you walk out the front door, another watermobile has pulled up and parked next to the to the one that drove you there, and Miss Shirley and Missy step out of it. Miss Shirley Miss Shirley is standing there, an interesting boyish cloth hat over her head, and her long plaid cloak over her. She looks like a boy, ready to go, traipsing around on the hills for a day.
Miss Shirley, Missy, nice to see you here.
Even dressed as a man, you are beautiful.
She stops and she... Thank you, actually. Thank you. And,
I'm
Missy,
trying.
these are friends. Why don't you give them your name? Oh, of course. She kind of blushes at you after, your constant apologizing. You've kind of won her heart. And
The wrong one.
She's like, Watson. Miss Watson. Dr. Miss Watson, thank you. And, she...
Lovely to meet you.
And, you take off the hat that you're not wearing.
No, I have my yellow top hat.
Okay.
Oh, the one that you stole.
Yeah, the one I left home with. That's basically
Okay.
my only thing from home.
I still
Other
have
than
your
this.
mouth covered.
I just do this.
And she's like, anyway, I have some business to attend to inside. Shirley sits there and, well, I guess this is goodbye then.
Yes, indeed.
Not so much goodbye. See you later.
Well,
Well, I will be back eventually, but yeah.
And I'm pretty much
For
following
now.
him.
well, what was your name again?
Anegrium.
Enigrim. Nice to meet you. And, you?
You don't remember my... No. Danny?
Danny. And as for my name, she reaches into her cloak, pulls out her pipe, lights it, puffs on it a little bit, sticks it in her mouth. It's got this interesting curve. She's like, blows some smoke in your face. I think I like my father's name better. Combs. Shirley Combes. And she just walks past you and into the... Larry Strud! We have some talking to do.
She's perfect.
And that is going to end the adventures
No, I
of
wanted one more thing.
the origin story to the rival between Mary Artley and Shirley Combes.
Oh, you got two lovers.
As we walk away,
As we're walking away.
I pull out the name tag, the name tablet thing, and say, I think if you're tracking a thief, you should have a thief.
Well, no, because we ran into each other at the tavern, so we technically split ways, remember?
We did split ways, but we split ways so you could go get your thing.
You would have
Oh, yeah,
gone
that's
and
true.
visited your master.
Because you wouldn't have
That's true.
taken
It
me
was
to
on
go
the
visit your
That's
master.
true. Yeah, that's true.
So how was that for a one-shot evening?
I like it.
I was brainstorming during the week.
I want more of that backstory in the future.
I finally have character development.
I was sitting here and I was thinking to myself, I gotta come up with some kind of other story to do sometime. And I was thinking Sherlock Holmes. I could do a mystery, Sherlock
Yeah, as
Holmes.
soon as you said Miss Watson, I was like, this is very Sherlock Holmes. And you know what it reminded me of, kind of? Like, the whole investigators thing? It kind of reminded me of, like, the D&D expansion, Waterdeep.
Never played any D&D.
But Waterdeep, I believe, it was, like, their latest one or whatever a couple of years ago. It was more of a, you know how most D&D is like, go in a dungeon, kick some ass, level
Yeah.
up. This one's more of the espionage type.
Oh,
So
okay.
They changed it up a bit. There was some fighting here and there, but due to the fact it was a highly aristocratic city, fighting was damn near impossible, so everything was pure stealth and espionage.
Nice.
That's what it reminded me of.
I couldn't, after I came up with Shirley Combes, I
I
just
knew when
had
you
to
said-
do Mary Artley as her arch nemesis, and Miss Watson, the doctor, governess. I just had to do it.
Even I didn't think you were gonna go. I didn't even see the Shirley Combes thing. I just went, oh, she's what? She's gonna be some kind of female Sherlock. That's.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's gonna do it, but he's gonna do that.
So that is the story. There you go.
That's how we
Backstory.
met and became best friends.
Yeah.
For that
It
one,
was a pleasure working with you. let's go to the main room.
For officially
He won't say
completing
my name. I'm taking his.
for officially completing the one-shot campaign, each of you gains 60 experience.
Woo! Woohoo! Plus 60.
Anyway, folks, I hope we will be back next weekend to jump back into the regular campaign. We will have Danny and Enegrium back with their wonderful strange relationship mixed in with the rest of the guys. Also, many of you will have noticed that Sam and John have been absent for a couple weeks now. Some very potentially life-altering events have occurred that they may not be coming back ever. So, at the departure from them staying behind to loot the dragon, that is where we are going to leave off their story permanently until further notice. So, anywho, folks, hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button down below. Let us know, comment, shout out to us, whatever. And we'll see you next weekend.
Hit that bell.
Oi!